Good morning, everyone. Oh, wow, these new microphones are amazing. Thank you, Ariana.
Yay!
Aloha mai kākou, good morning. This is the October 18, 2023 Land Use Commission meeting. This is an in-person meeting which is being held at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center, Higashi Meeting Room, 1 Cameron Way, Kahului, Hawaii, 96732. And this meeting is open to the public. Court reporting transcriptions are being done from the Zoom recording of this meeting. That's why we have the Zoom primarily, because it's an in-person meeting. All meeting participants, I'd like to stress the importance of speaking slowly, clearly, and directly into your microphone. Before speaking each time, please state your name and identify yourself for the record. That's for the minutes. Even though this is an in-person meeting, please be aware that all meeting participants are being recorded on the digital record of the Zoom meeting for court reporting purposes. Your continued participation is your implied consent to be part of the public record of this event. If you do not wish to be part of the public record, you should exit the meeting now. My name is Dan Giovanni, and I have the pleasure to serve as the Land Use Commission Chairman. And we currently have 9 seated commissioners, 8 of which are here today. Along with me are Commissioners Lee Ohigashi from Maui, Commissioner Michael Yamane from Kauai, Commissioner Melka Hale from Oahu, Commissioner Kaike Kamakea Ohelo from Oahu, Commissioner George Atta from Oahu, Commissioner Brian Lee from Oahu, and Commissioner Nancy Carr Smith from the island of Hawaii. Commissioner Gary Okuda is excused from today's meeting. Also in attendance are the Land Use Commission Executive Officer Daniel Orendenker, Land Use Commissioner Chief Planner Scott Derrickson, LUC Staff Planner Martina Segura, LUC Chief Clerk Ariana Kwan, and LUC Attorney General seated to my left, Ms. Julie China. Again, court reporting transcriptions are being done from the Zoom recording. Our first order of business is the adoption of the minutes from our meeting of October 4th, 2023. Ms. Kwan, has there been any written testimony submitted on October 4th minutes?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who have signed up to testify on the adoption of the minutes?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any corrections or comments on the minutes from the meeting of October 4th? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Ohigashi. Do I have a second for the motion?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. All in favor of adoption of the minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Or is anyone opposed? The minutes are adopted. Thank you. The next agenda item is the tentative meeting schedule. Mr. Orendenker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tomorrow we will...
Recording in progress.
Sorry.
Tomorrow we will be here once again for the WDB motion to for extension of time. Our next meeting after that will be on November 15th, which will be a virtual meeting where staff will be presenting for review the proposed rule amendments that were discussed at the prior meeting. On November 16th, we will be in Kona for WHCC at WHCC for A81 525 YO Limited Partnerships, motion for reconsideration. On December 6th, we will be on Oahu at the State Office Tower for the OPSD soil study presentation. We do not have any meetings scheduled until January 24th, which will be Hollycourt Development Status Report. However, I would caution the commissioners that the Waimanalo Gulch matter is outstanding. We don't know when the county's going to complete its contested case hearing, and that could happen at any time, and we will only have 45 days. So please keep your schedules open until you hear from us.
Thank you, Mr. Necker. Does any commissioners have any questions or comments on the tentative schedule? Since we need to be ready, Ms. Kwan, can I ask that, as you have in the past, continue to survey the availability of the commissioners on a proactive basis?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So our fourth order of business is the status and progress report from A07773A from Emmanuel Lutheran Church of Maui. I'd like to begin by having the parties identify themselves. Petitioner, could you please identify yourself and who will be with you?
Good morning. My name is Josh Remfer. I'm the principal at Emmanuel Lutheran School.
And I'm Leif Schustrand, congregation president.
Do you have counsel with you today?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So from the, from the WAIKAPU development.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Jeff Uyoka. I represent WAIKAPU Development Venture. With us today is the owner's rep, Keone Gomes, and project manager, Heidi Bigelow. Thank you.
Thank you. From the state.
Good morning, Deputy Attorney General Brian Yee. On behalf of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, with me is Katia Balasiano from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Thank you. And from the County of Maui.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Deputy Corporation Counsel Michael Hopper. I represent the Maui County Department of Planning. With me are planners Ann Kua and Tara Furukawa. And later we will have Deputy Director of the Department of Housing and Human Concerns, Samalu Mataafa, to be available for questions on the WDV matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to, at this time, review the procedure for today for both the status report agenda items. First, I will ask, as I have done, I've asked the parties to identify themselves for the record so that if we have questions or commentary, we know who we're speaking to. Thank you. Next, I will recognize written testimony that has been submitted on this matter, identifying the person or organizations who has submitted the testimony. Next, I will call upon members of the public who wish to testify on the progress report. Each member of the public will have 2 minutes to provide their testimony and should stand by after their testimony to respond to any questions the parties or the commissioners may have. When all questions have been completed, the chair will excuse the witness and call the next witness to enter and give their testimony. After completion of the public testimony portion of the proceedings, the chair would like the petitioners to provide its status reports. The chair will then call upon the county's planning department, the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, or the state, for comments regarding the status report. The petitioner will then be allowed to respond to the comments made by the county and OPSD. The commissioners will then ask questions of the parties at the conclusion of each of their presentations. At the conclusion of the parties' testimony and commissioners' questions, the public will be granted a second opportunity to provide public testimony in the same manner that was set forth previously. Once the public testimony concludes, the Commission will enter into deliberations regarding the status report and to decide if any action is necessary. The Chair would also like to note for the parties and the public that from time to time I will be calling short breaks, nominally 5 to 10 minutes each hour. And also we will be scheduling a lunch break at approximately 11:30 today. The timing of that lunch break in part is due to the availability and the hours that are open at the college there at their cafeteria. So that should give adequate time for everybody to get over and back. So let me ask the parties if they have any comments or objections to the procedure. So, petitioner,
I have no objections.
please state your name.
Oh, Josh Remfer. I understand what's going on.
Okay,
Jeff Uyoka, no objections. Thank you.
you state.
Brian Yee, no objections.
Thank you. County.
Michael Hopper, no objections, Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Disclosures. Do any of the commissioners have any disclosures on this matter to make at this time? Hearing none, we'll proceed. Reference for the record. Please be informed that the relevant records and documents pertaining to this matter can be accessed for review on the Land Use Commission website, specifically under, quote, pending documents, quote, tab. Interested parties are welcome to review the documents at their convenience. Public testimony. For the members of the public, again, please be reminded that the Commission will not be considering the merits of this petition. Rather, the Commission is interested in learning about the current state of activities related to the docket, including compliance with conditions, and will consider whether action is necessary after that. I will now recognize written testimony submitted in this matter, identifying the person or organizations submitting the testimony. Ms. Kwan, has there been any written testimony submitted on this matter?
No testimony for the status report, but we did receive 4 written testimonies for tomorrow's agenda item regarding WAIKAPU development.
And we had an opportunity to post it.
They are posted.
Thank you very much. Now I will call any members of the public to provide testimony here today on this agenda item. Are there any members of the public present who would like to testify in person? Please have a seat.
First testimony is Sandy Baz.
Please state your name and affiliation and address for the record, and I'll swear you in before you give your testimony.
Yeah. Aloha, Chair, members. My name is Sandy Baz, Sananda Baz, my legal name. I am a parent volunteer with Emmanuel Lutheran Church and School, and that's who I'm testifying on behalf of today myself. I'm a resident of Kahului. I live at 91 Olina Street, Kahului, Hawaii 96732.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth today?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you. I've been a parent of Emmanuel Lutheran School for about a year and a half now, and my 2 boys that attend the school just love the school, and with a little bit of pulling, I got participated into the volunteer building committee. So I've been participating in that since about the beginning of this year, I believe. And there's a lot of. I know it seems like there hasn't been a lot of activity going on, but lately we've been meeting sometimes weekly to go over status updates. We get more details, of course, from the principal, but the idea is that the school itself, and the reason why I'm very blessed and happy to have my children attend there, is that it's a small school, a little over 200 kids in total. The teachers, the small classroom sizes, the parents and teachers and staff, it's basically very family oriented, and the education is real top quality, and so I'm really supportive of growing the school. We're in a very landlocked situation right now in a residential neighborhood in Kahului, so I had the opportunity to build a new school in, is kind of an infill area. I know in the past they went from agriculture to the public, quasi-public, but the project itself, if you look at the surrounding areas now, it's an infill project. There's a church, there's affordable housing, close by, there's another affordable housing project which I support as well, and we really want to have the opportunity to complete the project and move forward and move the school. So again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate the opportunity to present to you my support for the project, and as we move forward, getting the project moving to completion. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your testimony. So any questions for the witness from the petitioners?
Jeff Uyoka, none from WDV. Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh Renfro, none from Emmanuel Lutheran.
Thank you. State.
Brian Yee, no questions.
Thank you. County.
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the witness? Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have somebody else?
For WAIKAPU, are we taking that testimony, or are we just doing Emmanuel Lutheran first?
Just doing Emmanuel Lutheran. So we'll take that later. So we'll move on to, so the other witness, is it, you're going to testify in Emmanuel Lutheran or the other project? So you'll have an opportunity when that comes up. So let's go to the petitioner for Emmanuel Lutheran, and please provide your status report.
My name is Josh Renfro, again representing Emmanuel Lutheran. This is my first time being a part of the Land Use Commission, so I just want to kind of give a little bit of history of my knowledge of where our project started and where we are now. Is that okay to do?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. I came to Emmanuel Lutheran in 2017, but as a teacher, and then took over as principal in 2020. Prior to that, my knowledge of I learned more about the project and its start and stop as I took over and became more involved. So the first couple of years I was here, the enrollment declined, and the project didn't really have a leader per se. So when I took over as principal, one of the things I wanted to do was to take a look at what our requirements were and try and meet those deadlines. But in order to do so, you have to involve a number of people. So one of the first things I did was contact Leaf, who's an active member, Leaf Shoestrand, and another school parent, and Sandy, who joined us last year. And so I'd like to just talk a little bit about the progress that we've made in the time since I took over as principal. So just a couple of notes that I have written here. We first met, Leaf and I did with Goodfellow in May of 2021, and we just got a basic, we talked with them about basic things that we needed to get started. And then things came together more appropriately in November of 2021. We formed an official building committee where we began to take a look at what we needed to do to meet the phases and to keep moving forward. And one of the reasons that the project stalled, I said, was just because of change in leadership. There were COVID issues, but right now, Emmanuel Lutheran is as strong enrollment-wise as it's ever been. So I think we're poised in good shape to continue moving forward to meet some of these deadlines. So the biggest piece that I think we've made progress with is we've partnered with a consultant group named GROW. I think that was mentioned at our last meeting. Unfortunately, the day that we signed a contract or that we had congregational approval was the same day that the fires hit Lahaina. And so we haven't, from August until now, we haven't met, but we have made some serious progress with different organizations in terms of completing those plans or getting at least the concept map out there. And we've also partnered with an organization called LCEF, which stands for Lutheran Church Extension Fund, and a gentleman by the name of Billy Brath has helped us with that process. So we are making progress financially in terms of looking at what kind of loans we can secure. We're making progress with a basic layout of our design, but we don't have. We're still definitely some time away from seeing things come to fruition. But we've made a lot of steps from November 2021 until now, moving in that direction, both financially and with the layout of what campus would look like.
So, a few of the members of this commission are relatively new and may or may not be familiar with the details of the record on a first-hand basis. In your own words, can you describe the project for the benefit of everybody here?
So, ideally, what we would like to see, our campus right now is 1.25 acres, and we have 220 kids. And we've basically outgrown the space that we're in. What we would like to do for our first phase is to build a facility that has 16 classrooms, 4 of those being for our preschool, and then 12 of those being for our grade school and a gymnasium. I think that's critical for phase 1. We would like to move our entire campus at one time. There were talks at one point about moving preschool in phase 1 and then the grade school in phase 2. For us, it's really important to be able to move everyone at one time because part of the financial piece would be selling the land we currently have to help finance the project moving forward. So to answer your question, what we would like to do is build in phase 1 16 classrooms in a gymnasium, and then our phase 2 would be to look at possibly building another structure, another gymnasium and a sanctuary for our church. Right now, well, I shouldn't say right now, for the last 40 years, our preschool runs out of the church building. So every Sunday after church, they tear everything down and the preschool sets up, and they've been doing that since 1980. So the idea and the excitement to have to be able to have a preschool, we have our preschool could truly grow if we have a facility that could take on more kids. So I think that it's just another opportunity to serve the community in that way. Chair, did I answer your question?
I think so, but let me ask the commissioners if they have any, on this point, if you have any questions about the scope of the project as described.
Chair,
Microphone.
Chair,
Commissioner Lee.
Commissioner Lee has a question.
Commissioner Lee, go ahead.
Can you tell us how many students your school serves or plans to serve?
We currently serve 220 preschool through 8th grade. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that's as big as we've been since I've been there. I think ideally we would love to see our preschool grow. Our preschool has a maximum capacity right now of 36. We have 3 classes of 12. With a lot of kids on a waiting list, we don't want to we're not looking to have a preschool with hundreds and hundreds, but I think if we could increase the number of kids in our preschool, it just ensures our enrollment stability for years to come if we can get more kids feeding from preschool into kindergarten. If I'm dreaming big, I would say we would love to have double grades, so from kindergarten through 8th. More realistically, I think we can probably, if we are able to finish our project and move, I think we can really feasibly have double grades kindergarten through 5th, because after 5th grade, students start looking elsewhere. But to be able to do that, then we can have a stronger middle school. And in one of our phases, if we built another, like a middle school type, if we laid the groundwork for it, that could be a potential phase 2 possibility. So I'd say right now we're 220. I would think I would love to see the school be maybe around 300 to 350 with an increase in preschool and lower grades. Again, that's idealistic, but I think it's certainly a possibility if we're able to, see the project through to fruition.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Otta.
I just wondered, right now we're just to one to K to sixth grade. Is that right now?
Right now, we're preschool through 8th grade.
To eighth grade.
Yeah. So we have 36 in preschool, and then kindergarten through 8th, anywhere from 23 is our kindergarten class, and our smallest class is 19. So roughly an average of 20 kids per class, which is like Sandy mentioned a little earlier. It's a good class size. Teacher to student ratio is nice. We're not looking to double or triple everything, but I think because we want to keep that family atmosphere, but we still, if we were able to build, I think we can also serve more people in the community.
Right now you're under 2 acres. Right now.
1.25 acres.
Gee, that's very small. Yeah.
You should see our field at recess. It never gets. It's always being used. Yeah.
Okay.
Chair.
Commissioner Ohigashi.
Going back to 2019, I think that there was an extension to 2025 to complete the initial 2 phases. I think you completed the first phase, right? To transfer the property, pay off the mortgage, and begin a fundraising campaign. I think that's where we are right now. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah. The land has been subdivided, and that the 2 parcels, one being WAIKAPU development, and the other that's just about finished. And then right where we are, I mean, we are. If we hadn't had what took place on the west side, we were moving towards starting or looking at our capital campaign. We were hoping to have that kick off at the new year. I can tell you that we won't do that just because the timing of that is not right, but that's where we are right now, looking to move towards our capital campaign. So,
and the second phase that you have to complete before 2025 will be the construct a multi-purpose building and the necessary site work and infrastructure. The building will house a preschool and provide gym space during the week and convert to worship services. Is that your present plan?
Our plan, that was when that was written in 2019. I wasn't the principal. I was just on the teaching staff, and they, like I said, the idea was that they would move the preschool and build a gym. As our building committee formed, we think it's more important that we move everybody at one time.
Well, then will you be coming in to modify those plans to identify new buildings or relocate the old buildings that you plan to build? Will there be a modification of the plan?
I'm not aware that there were plans submitted with that. That was just talking through how it could be phased. We didn't have a layout for that.
You don't have a layout now?
Not for what you described in the phase 1. We have a layout for what we would like our phase 1 to look like now. Just some general drawings, yes. Not architectural. That's what we're working with the consulting firm with to develop as we speak.
And given the problems that you have now, when will these phases or the second phase actually begin? Do you have an estimation?
The second phase? The second phase is, as is written in these documents, or the second phase that we're what I'm calling the second phase.
Well, I'm just going over I'm assuming what was said at the last hearing in 2019, that these are your plans. This is how you're going to phase it in to meet your objectives. And that's why we gave you 6 years to do so. So my question to you is, given the delays, is it anticipated, essentially, my question, that you will meet the 6-year deadline?
By 2025, is at the end of the 6 years, correct?
That's correct.
I would love to see that we have completed structures that we're able to move into on the property, yes.
I understand. I'm sorry, but I'm a lawyer, so I don't speak in love and things like that, and aspiration. I just wanted to know is will you be coming forward to this commission with the proposal as to what the timeline should be to meet this 6 years 2025 deadline? So therefore, and so we can determine whether or not you're going to have to ask for additional time or things. It's a simple question. So,
Well,
Go ahead. This leaf shoe strand, we may have to ask for additional time. We were going full speed with planning. We're talking about meeting next week to get that rolling again, or within the next month. But our intent is to move full speed. We did get, our schedule kind of got delayed with just the fire and just the Lutheran Church's response to all that. That kind of stopped all of our building meetings and stuff like that. But we were intending on moving forward, trying to meet those deadlines. If something comes up, we might have to come and ask for an extension. But right now, our intent would be to meet that deadline.
would you be able to provide to the commission to make a determination whether or not we should be monitoring some kind of timeline based upon your anticipated delays, and how are you going to meet those? Because in order for you to have, I'm saying, constructed a building within 2025, the problem is how you're going to fundraise, how you're going to pay for it, what infrastructure you're going to put in, what's that going to cost. So I think that I understand that you have good expertise on your board and your community that you have that would be able to help you put together that kind of timeline. That would give you a realistic feel for whether or not you should come in now with a more realistic plan versus trying to hit that 2025 deadline.
We can put together a timeline.
I'd be happy to sit down at our next building committee meeting and lay out a timeline that is feasible and working towards the 2025 goal. Is that what you're asking? An updated timeline?
And a realistic assessment as to whether or not you think you can meet it, and what time do you need to complete it, so that we can determine whether or not additional extensions would be. Because if you come here 2026, we're going to say, well, what's the problem now? Right? So I'm trying to give you opportunity to take a look at what would be reasonable during that period of time. And I'm not sure if my fellow commissioner is going to ask this question about the cultural. Well, I'll leave it to him. That's all the questions I have for now, Mr. Chair.
This is Chair Giovanni. I want to build on what Commissioner Ohikashi has just raised, the issues he's raised.
Mm-hmm.
So, from the time in which this project was approved, things have changed.
Lots of change, yes.
Lots of change within your organization, within the greater Maui community, within COVID, all these impacts. And we want to, I think the sentiment of this commission is we want you to be successful. We want you to follow through. But we're uncertain, other than your aspirational descriptions today, about the details of, because the building configuration has changed, the phases have changed, the timing has changed, and there are other issues like, do you have the money, how are you going to get the money, all of those sorts of things, right?
Right.
So it would be very helpful if you could kind of lay out exactly, your best understanding as of today with your building committee and any consultants or architects you have available to you. I think there was some reference to Goodfellow, and I don't know what that reference means.
That was me starting a timeline of what I tried to do as when I took over, but we're not necessarily working with Goodfellow, but we do have the GROW as our, a consultant, planning, yeah.
Okay, so with GROW,
Okay.
on board with you,
Mm-hmm.
if you could put together a kind of a project prospectus,
Okay.
which says this is what we want to build, and this is the timing that we expect to build it, and then we can cross-check that earlier and not later about any deadlines that have been previously imposed by this commission, and have plenty of time to adjust and modify.
Okay.
But we need the knowledge of the details, and so you have to develop them for us and present them to us. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. This is new to me now. If we have something laid out and on paper that you can go through and see, then it's easier for you to see where we are. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
And in the process, you may deduce on your own that you need more time. That's where Commissioner Ohigashi was going. And the sooner you ask for more time, the sooner you get it without any difficulty.
Okay.
But we want the project to go forward.
Okay.
Okay,
Chair, could I ask a question? I
Sure.
apologize for butting in there.
State your name again, please.
Leaf Shoestrand with Emmanuel. I did submit a letter, but I don't know if that's considered written testimony. I was asked at the last meeting to provide a letter by like August 15th or something like that. I did submit that, and that was an attempt to update on the project kind of status, but I'm sure it was highly inadequate, but I did attempt that.
Do you want to take a few minutes just to describe in your own words your perspective of what's in that letter?
I didn't, of course, I didn't
You don't
bring a
have
copy
to.
either. Yeah, I didn't bring a copy of it
Yeah,
either, but I did try to update.
If you've submitted it, it's on the record.
Okay.
But Commissioner Ohigashi is basically trying to help,
Yeah, absolutely.
and we need the details, is what he's saying. Okay, Commissioners, additional questions or comments for petitioner? Anything else you want to put on the record?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Commissioner?
Mahalo, Chair, for the time. I have a question for you, Principal. Moments earlier in your testimony, I heard you make a statement, and I'm just asking for clarification. You stated, to my recollection, that you feel like you guys completed phase 1. Is that accurate? In your testimony?
Well, I'm talking about phase 1 as the way we're thinking about it. I know in the previous meetings, phase 1, what Commissioner Ohigashi said was that it was to get part of phase 1 was to get the land divided so that there's 2 different TMKs. That part is almost done. There's been no building in phase 1, but that's what I meant to say was that part of phase 1 is almost done, where the land is subdivided into 2 parcels.
Okay, so to your belief, phase 1 is almost completed?
The subdivision part.
Okay.
So I think the difficulty is that the original plan had a phase 1 that included the subdivision and some buildings, and now you're moving those buildings into really a phase 2, but you want to call it phase 1. So this all needs to be clarified.
Gotcha.
Right? Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you, for example, to go back to the original definitions of what was phase 1, identify what was completed or will be completed and not, and what will be moved to, you can call it phase 1A and 1B, or you can call it phase 1 and phase 2, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But you can see how it causes confusion.
Right.
I have a follow-up.
Please.
Mahalo, Chair. All right, so, as commissioners, we have the responsibility of overseeing the petitioner's compliance, with the conditions. I'd like to emphasize the criticality of fulfilling these conditions, especially condition 2, from the 2019 decision and order granting the petitioner's motion for time extension, which states, and I quote, "Petitioner shall have a CIA of the petition area completed prior to the petitioner's completion of phase 1 of the updated ELC project. And petitioner shall adhere to the recommendations of said CIA, end quote. And for the record, this CIA is the acronym for Cultural Impact Statement. So I have a question. What's the status of that Cultural Impact Statement?
So WAIKAPU Development Ventures has completed theirs. Our intent is to reach out to their consultant and have them do ours as well. That's the status.
Okay, mahalo. And I just want to remind you, because I feel like it's very imperative that the petitioner acknowledges, and adheres to those recommendations. Yeah, because it's part of the conditions of your DNO from 2019. Chair, that is all.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any more questions?
Sure. Commissioner Ohigashi.
Yeah. I read in your letter your concerns about the traffic impact report study. And I think that what I'm trying to get a hold of it. Are you saying that you will do the traffic impact report study?
Again, Leaf Shoe Strand at Emmanuel, there's a lot there. Can we, pay a consultant to do a traffic impact analysis report? Absolutely, we can. That's cost.
You can, but I'm just asking if you're going to comply with that.
Well, and if we can
condition
talk,
of
I mean, it'd be, again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just a person here, right?
I understand.
So, in talking in just plain speak, I mean, there's a lot there. So, we bought this property in around 2004. I don't quite remember. I've been on the building committee that whole entire time. I should be ashamed to say we've done not a lot. But, part of that, part of what they're talking about is the intersection by the cemetery, which is Wainu and Waiale. I've lived on the other side of that for 22 years, and that traffic has always been bad. And I struggle with our church. There's 10 kids in our church that go to Emmanuel Lutheran. The other 210 plus kids are from the community. The school serves the community. It doesn't serve the church. It's the outreach. It's the church's outreach into the community. I struggle with us paying for a light at that intersection. My understanding is that light is finally up on the STIP for construction in 2024. I don't know if that'll actually happen, but it's supposed to. It's very long overdue. So much growth has happened in this area that the intersection at Waiale and Kuikahi is quite often very congested. Just within the last 3 weeks, I was stopped way up by Honolulu-Pilani Highway, waiting 3 traffic lights to get through that intersection. So it's tough. I know my wife's a first grade teacher, so I know some kids get dropped off at 7, some get dropped off at 8. I don't think there's a big traffic impact in the morning, but in the afternoon, when all the kids are getting picked up, and then some stay after school. Our school doesn't. Can we pay for the report? Absolutely. Can we pay for the improvements in that area? That would be. I know last time you were asking for what's a go no go thing. That would be once we start paying for that. It's going to be everything we can do to build the school. So I don't know. It's an issue. I wish we could revisit.
Well, we're going to make a commentary first, because I took it as you're not really answering the question. A commentary first was there was a condition placed on the school in Kihei about an separated grade crossing. And all the time, the DOE would say, we don't know what to do with this condition. And then they came in and lied about saying that, yeah, they're going to follow it, and do it. And then they wind up being stuck and forcing the governor and the mayor of the county of Maui to give them special exception so they could open the school. So, going back and taking a look at that scenario, wouldn't it be in your best interest for you to determine what the TIR, the traffic impact study would cost and get you folks done? What are the ramifications of that? And at this point, seek whatever assistance you can, whether it be a request to reduce, to change the condition, or work with Highways Division to make sure that they're not going to ding you for those things. Wouldn't that be the prudent method of pursuing this matter rather than saying, I don't know if we should do it or not?
I agree with you.
Well, thank you.
I
wish the DOE agreed with me.
We absolutely can do the report, and there's been reports in that area, and we're familiar with what they say. I do work for Goodfellow, so we do some of those jobs.
Sir, I'm not telling you to.
Recording in progress.
I'm not telling you not to do the report or to do the report or whatever. I'm pleading upon you for your organization to take proactive measures right now and deal with the Department of Highways to determine what that condition may cost you or may not cost you, to get assurances from people like the County of Maui who wants to have this housing portion of that property go through and to have a nice community over there and build more houses for our people, to see what mechanisms are there at this point to reduce the potential of that condition, of impacts on you of that condition. And I don't think it's a question, it's just a suggestion at this point. Okay. No further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Quick question, and then I got more later, but when you fully build out the school, phases 1, 2, 3, whatever, how many students you got?
I would say if we did the double grades that I was talking about, if we hit our max capacity, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
350.
So basically you're talking about going from 250 to 350, and you're 250 today, correct?
220.
Well, with teachers and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So, what these traffic studies try to anticipate is what will be the impact if the project builds out. And so, my understanding is it is a condition that the study would be done. It's my understanding that your representatives have met with LUC staff and indicated your willingness, as you said today, to do the study. It sounds like what you're worried about is if you do the study, it will identify infrastructure upgrades that have a cost to them, and they might be a condition going forward, and you don't want to deal with that unanticipated cost. But as Commissioner Ohigashi has indicated, the sooner you understand what that might be, the sooner you might be able to get others involved to do the necessary work. It's a congested area. It's going to get worse. I don't know how much more you're going to contribute to it relative to others. That's what the study is all about, and it is a condition of the decision and order going forward. So the study needs to be updated. Commissioner Carr-Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Sounds like a wonderful project. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all this. The first time I've looked at all these documents, but you mentioned your August 18th letter, I believe it was, 15th. And it says in that letter that you're hoping to break ground in 2025. I thought I understood you to say a little bit earlier that you were hoping to have buildings by 2025. What your letter says sounds a lot more realistic to me, but I just wanted some clarity, please.
Yeah, I apologize. I leave with Emmanuel. I wrote that letter, so our stories didn't quite jive there, but maybe that is me putting the timeline together in my mind. And like you guys have suggested, maybe we need to start laying all that out better. And we definitely intend to. We'll be on that.
Because it seems you don't have plans, correct?
You're right. We just signed with a planning company. So we bought this property in like 2004, and at that time, our enrollment was very similar to what it is now. And then what happened is Pomakai School was built, and a lot of kids, brand new public school, went there. We slowly grew back, and then it wasn't long while Pu'ukukui was built, and we kind of took a hit then. And then what happened is, I mean, with Josh's leadership and COVID, all of a sudden we're bursting at the seams again. And it's like, we got to get back on this. But our plans were for the full 25 acres, and they were ready to be permitted. They were something we could have never afforded to build. It was super over-designed. So we're kind of back to the drawing board. So we just started back with the planning, with the 12 acres that we have with the planner to kind of lay that out and start siting things. And then from there, our intention is to go straight to design and permitting and get it built. So, and the financing has come up a few times. There is a Lutheran Church Extension Fund that is willing to, finance the project. Of course, we got to pay them back, and so figuring all that out is a work in progress. But a big part of that is selling the existing property. So,
thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Yamane.
Thank you. Kind of going back to your letter again, one of the concrete steps, and I think this question was asked differently, but I didn't hear a clear answer on the hiring of growth development. What exactly will their role be for you folks? What are they scoped to do? And are they starting? I see a 6 months. What's the expectation there for growth development?
Again, Leaflet, Emmanuel, they're a architectural planner, so their job is to kind of site, size buildings, site them, kind of do kind of a layout, and then produce stuff that we could use to communicate the project for, fundraising, stuff like that. And then we go to a local firm that can make it fit the land, and you know what I mean, and just make it feel like it should, and design permittable plans.
Okay.
So they're a very preliminary front end planner.
And are they going to develop a new scope, or are they going to use what was proposed in 2018, or like what were they given any information on what was originally proposed, or are they just going to start like clean slate?
Well, we didn't have plans in 2018 as far as the plans we had previously were well before 2018, and they were over the 25 acres. Most of it was on the south side, which is now WAIKAPU Development Venture. So even what was designed there, even if we just tried to rotate it or shrink it, and we couldn't even put it on the 12 acres that we have. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that clears things up for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Yamane. Commissioners, anything further? going to try to summarize what's been going on here for a few minutes from the commissioner's point of view. So, you've come forth and expressed that you are in a much better position now to go forward than you were a couple of years ago. And despite COVID, you're bursting at the seams and you want to go forward, you want to get this built, right? But there are conditions of the original decision and order which have yet to be fulfilled. The traffic study update, the cultural impact assessment, etc. And you have also indicated that you're just at the front end at a preliminary design scoping for the build-out. We've got confusion about phases as you have them in your mind versus what was detailed in the original decision and order. So what this commission really needs for you to do over the next weeks to months is to put this, work with Grow or whoever, and put your project together with each of its elements. One would be the preliminary layout of the buildings. Another would be the cultural impact assessment. It is absolutely necessary. Another would be the updated TIAR. And build all that into a timeline. That's what we want to see. Our expectation is there's no way you're going to get this thing built by the original deadline. That's okay, but let's not wait till that expires and you come back and say, oh, sorry. I think we know enough, and you know enough already, that you can recast it in a realistic timeline, incorporating all the parts you need to do, and bring that back to us so we can understand it with you. And then if there's a need to modify the scope of the approval, we can consider it at that time. Does that make sense?
Yes, Chair, thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask one qualifying question there?
Sure.
I think the way the condition for the TIAR reads is that it's after the school opens. Is that? Can they just do the study with the student population numbers? Because I guess that's what a concern is of mine. I don't know about ours, but is this that if we wait to do the study then?
No, you don't wait. You basically,
Yeah.
basically you have 225 plus staff there now. And when you finish this project, you're going to have 350 plus staff or something like that. What's the impact to this traffic of that coming to fruition? That's what the study addresses.
Yeah.
And whether or not it requires any infrastructure upgrades, I don't know. And what the options might be for that and for getting it accomplished if necessary. The study will be a step in that direction to understand it. But your obligation is to update the study based on your current plans and timeline.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Oigashi.
my inquiry will be to probably the state, as to whether or not, even though that this requirement is on Emmanuel Luther, whether or not the traffic impact study should include the development of the housing project.
WAIKAPU.
Not WAIKAPU. That probably may be my request to the Office of Planning. The scope of it.
Yeah. Would you like me to answer that now or include it as part of our response?
Why don't you respond if you can, Mr. Yee?
Our understanding is at the time that this matter was bifurcated, there was not a bifurcation of conditions. Consequently, the conditions as currently drafted apply equally to all parties. Now, that might be something that could be changed in the future, but at the moment, that's where it stands.
Yeah, so we speak, it hasn't been bifurcated, then whose responsibility is it to schedule for the WAIKAPU development?
Right, so let me separate two separate questions. One question is who currently has the responsibility, and the Separate question could be who should have the responsibility. And those are two different questions. Currently, I think both parties have the responsibility for each of each other's obligations. You could certainly make an argument that there should be a separation of those responsibilities, but I don't think one has been made. So it could be that the should is a different answer than what is current.
Thank you. Commissioner Ogashi, anything further?
Nothing except that I think that the parties need to talk to each other about that.
Yeah, fair enough. Commissioners, any questions before we move on to the county? Okay, so what time is it? Let me check on that. 10:30. Let's take a 8-minute, 10, I got 10:32. We'll come back at 10:40 and we'll resume with the county. Okay, we're back on the record. Has the recording begun? Thank you, Ariana. So let's turn to the county for remarks and presentation. Mr. Hopper.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think we have much to add from the commissioner's questions. I think we're in the same perspective as to what's been put on the record as far as the staff, the compliance report, and the letter. And I think we share the commission sentiment that the landowner needs to be aware of all of the conditions, and if it has any issues complying with them, come in for appropriate amendments. So I don't have much to add on that. We do have planners and Kua and Terra Furukawa available, but I think that's our position at this point. It's pretty substantially similar to what the commission seems to be getting at in its questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper. Commissioners, any comments or questions for the county? Okay, thank you. OPSD, Mr. Yee.
Thank you. I think I'm in general agreement with the county, but as is typical, I may take longer to express them.
As is typical, I agree.
I think the presentation on the status report is less robust than we would normally expect from a petitioner, which is okay because we're still early before the deadlines are done. But there are three particular conditions that I just want to raise, both for the LUC as well as for the petitioners, and that is the requirement for a cultural impact assessment. The second is the TIAR, and the third is the development deadline for construction by 2025. The cultural impact assessment, of course, is just important because they're always important. I will note that WAIKAPU Development has completed their ethnographic study, so it does give some comfort because the ethnographic studies normally are not quite so specific to the particular parcel. So much of the work that has been done, I think, for WAIKAPU Development is going to be equally applicable to the school, just because geographically they're just right there. Nevertheless, there is a requirement for a CIA to be done before the first phase is done, which is the subdivision. Subdivision is not yet done. It is my understanding that technically all of the steps for subdivision are not completed. So there's not a violation going on, but that is something that needs to be looked at. The second, as I said, is the TIAR, the Traffic Impact Analysis Report. Again, the WAIKAPU Development Ventures did finish their TIR, so we have that done. And that there is an existing condition. I'm not going to get into the pluses and the minuses, the whys and wherefores, whether that should or shouldn't be changed. All I'm going to say is there is a TIAR requirement, and as evidenced by the letter from EMMANUEL Lutheran, they have concerns about that condition. And if so, then they cannot just ignore the condition. They'll need to come back at some point and have a discussion with people and then eventually If they still have concerns, come back and ask for modification. The third is the development deadline, which the first deadline is 2025, and as noted by Commissioner Carr-Smith, the letter suggests that they're going to break ground in 2025 with construction completed 2 years later, indicating they did not expect to complete to meet this requirement, and so would anticipate having some issues. I will also note that there are, not explicitly stated, but there are always concerns, just as a practical matter when you look at it. The likelihood that they will get the financing and all the approvals and then begin construction just makes it seem unlikely. Again, they are not currently in violation, so they're not currently at risk. But now this status conference is well set in a way because it is set early. And so this gives the petitioner an opportunity to go back, anticipate these problems, and then come back to the Land Use Commission and fix them. What I would suggest is they ensure that they have an appropriate consultant. I don't know, I'm not familiar with Grow Development. We did a quick look online, which indicates that they don't have a focus on architecture, so I'm not sure that they develop the actual architecture plans. I'm also not sure whether they are the typical land use consultants or not in the state of Hawaii. I'm perfectly happy to work with them, but whoever they get, whether it's Grow Development or someone else, they should get appropriate consultation. I know it is very tempting to try to do as much as possible yourself without hiring other experts to help you, but there is a reason why experts are paid, because they can really assist you in this process. So it is up to them. I will not tell them they have to do something, but they should at least consider seeking some additional assistance in understanding the process and what has to be done. Finally, I do want to recommend, and frankly strongly recommend, that when they figure out what they want to do and have maybe a better, clearer understanding, they meet with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We're happy to meet with them to go over some of the requirements. We cannot be their attorney, we cannot be their consultant, but we can still assist them in understanding the process and going over and discussing the potential risks and vulnerabilities their proposal may have. We can also assist in explaining to them from the state's perspective why certain conditions are important, what conditions are reasonable as alternatives, and to assist them in coming up with a plan moving forward so that they can, if there are some things they cannot meet currently or they're unlikely to meet, to change it early and to change it to an alternative that everyone can live with. We certainly support the proposal. We have to acknowledge that this proposal comes in the middle of a case that has been, existing since 2008. So it has already gotten extensions. But that does not mean we are opposed to any further extensions. It just means we have to be cognizant of that and sensitive to the idea that we don't want to use more time than necessary for this development. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Yee. Commissioner Ohigashi has a question.
Yeah, in all of our DNOs, we place a condition that you will develop in substantial compliance with the representations made during the hearing. We've heard today that Emmanuel Lutheran Church intends to modify the footprint plan that they presented to us concerning the development of this project. Is it your opinion, Office of Planning opinion, that they would have to come back to the commission so that it's on record as to what that footprint would look like prior to proceeding?
Right, so just to verify, in 2008, the first condition is compliance with the representations, which does, as you say, require that they develop the property in substantial compliance with their representations. So to the extent that they are changing their plans different than at least what was proposed to the commission in 2018, I believe, which is when the last time they came back to them, then they should make that clear. It's because this presentation, as I said, has been, I think the term I used was less robust, it's still not entirely clear to me what the differences are between the original plan and this plan. They did plan in 2008 to expand the school and to put in housing, and they are expanding the school and putting in housing. That might change, but how they do it might change. The number of classrooms could change. I don't know. So that's one of the reasons I'm suggesting they figure out what they want to do. I'm not restricting them at all in their future plans, but in figuring out how to move forward, to come and talk to the Office of Planning, so we can go over some of those changes and figure out, yes, this is something that needs to be addressed, or you're golden on that.
Okay, my second question is that it's more of a procedural one. Once subdivision takes place, my understanding is that they fall below the 15-acre threshold. Is it a county's responsibility from there on, or is it still land use commission's responsibility?
Well, I'll let the county speak for themselves as to what they think. I think my view would be, once a subdivision occurs, this remains with the Land Use Commission, because that is how it initially started, and that is how it should have remained.
Well, I was just interested in your opinion. Thank you for coming today, Mr. Yee. I've longed to see you since I thought you were promoted, but now I find out otherwise.
Mr. Hopper, do you have a comment on that last question?
I mean, I think we have a decision in order that's recorded on the property that's going to dictate that, so I don't see that necessarily changing. I mean, so yeah, I think I would generally agree with Mr. Yee on that.
Thank you. A question that was raised earlier, having to do, this is for Mr. Yee. I think it's for Mr. Yee, but Mr. Hopper, I would invite you to comment as well, having to do with the bifurcation and the conditions and who they apply to. I mean, from the commission's point of view, we have to hold both parties accountable for all the conditions. But whether or not it makes sense to modify those conditions and further clarify who has explicit responsibility for what, can you comment on that? What would be an appropriate way to proceed?
I think the commission has the authority to change its DNO and to make certain conditions applicable to one party and certain conditions applicable to another, or even to change the conditions so that, for example, the traffic impact analysis report for the WAIKAPU development portion is responsibility of WAIKAPU development and not Emmanuel Lutheran. And the traffic impact analysis report for Emmanuel Lutheran should be Emmanuel Lutheran's responsibility and not WAIKAPU development. I think it's perfectly logical and appropriate. I just don't know that that's been done yet.
Mr. Hopper, any comment?
I think I would agree with that.
Thank you. Commissioner Atta?
I just, this bifurcation situation, I was wondering what about the elimination of the parking green space in the original plan? Who's responsible for that?
I'm gonna actually give you a guess, which is we think it's WAIKAPU Development's responsibility, but obviously that has not been something I think we've specifically discussed.
So we'll revisit that question when we get to WAIKAPU presentation. So, any other questions for the state? Okay, so at this point, I'd like to invite the petitioner to if they have any further comments or rebuttal based on the comments made by the state and the county. This time. Please state your name again for the...
Josh Renfrew. I think it's made it clear for me what our building committee needs to do, so I appreciate that, and that's what we'll set to do, so we can bring some things with better detail back to the commission and the state and the county.
Can you summarize what your understanding is, if it's clear to you?
That because we
gotta be on the same page here.
Right. since all the changes that took place in leadership, myself, and what was written in 2018 or 2019, our ideas have changed some. So what we will do between our building committee at Emmanuel Lutheran is lay out a phased plan of what we intend to do with some timelines to bring that back to you, and that may require that we ask for extensions, and if we need to do so, we do that in a timely manner, not waiting till the end. So Leaf and Sandy, we've just met during the little break to say we know that we need to do that and lay those things out, and we are going to continue, like the state said, to partner with GROW so that there's some things on paper that you can see, and it's not just all my, dreams. Okay?
Thank you. I agree with what you just said. I would add two things to it. One is, I think you got a very generous offer from Mr. Yee in the state to work with you to help figure out how to interpret these requirements, and if any of them you feel that you'd like to look at an alternative. They offered to discuss with you informally what that might look like or possible look like. Take advantage of that. Especially since you are representing yourself, you don't have a lot of professional consultants on board and attorneys on board that are very familiar with this. So if you can get that help, take it. Secondly, the second point is on these conditions. This commission would welcome if you and WAIKAPU could meet privately and come up with a recommendation on how these conditions should be apportioned to each of you, so that it's all taken care of and it all fits together, and we're not pointing fingers at each other later. Okay. That make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Commissioners, anything else?
Sure.
Commissioner Carson.
Thank you. A couple things. I also encourage you to have a consultant, get a planning consultant that can help you navigate this process. It's a lot to expect to understand everything that you have to do and the timelines and everything. Maybe you have a parent or somebody within your church that has that expertise. I think it's really important for you guys. But the other thing, I'm trying to understand the relationship, and you said the subdivision isn't even complete yet, right? Correct?
If I may, Chair.
Just state your name.
Jeff Uyoka. I represent WAIKAPU Development Venture. So it's one parcel right now. We're in it for a 2-lot subdivision. We're almost there. We're really, I promise this time we're really close.
I think I'm trying to understand how you are, without a legal parcel, going ahead and getting the CIA and the traffic study done without owning a separate parcel yet.
Jeff Uyoka, we're tenants in common on the parcel. We do have ownership over the parcel, WAIKAPU Development Venture. It's tenancy in common right now.
Okay.
And
But your studies have only been for your portion that you're purchasing?
we're going to work on that. Typically those CIAs are done for large areas. Ours was just completed just for our project. But we are going to work with, Dr. Watson was here earlier, and we're going to ask her what the process to update the study to include Emmanuel Lutheran would be for that. And we feel it should be a relatively simple, not too painful process. That's the hope, at least. And I will say, we're going to talk about it after with my clients, but I'd like to help the Emmanuel Lutheran guys out a little bit. Not that I'm an expert on this process at all, but I'd like to try and help if I can. So I just got to check with my clients later. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the cherry on top of this thing is that you need to come back. And you need to come back in a reasonable time frame. Don't wait till 2025 and then come back and say, oh my God, we're still at the front end of this thing. So once you get that timeline figured out, and I hope you can figure it out in a matter of weeks to months, 3 months, 2 months, 3 months. That's the type of timeline that would be welcome, where you could come back to us and say, this is what the timeline is, it dictates that we're going to need an extension. This is how we're going to modify the conditions and take responsibility for this, this, and this, and WAIKAPU take, etc. This is what the layout looks like. It's either consistent or inconsistent with the original plans that were approved, and therefore we need to modify those plans, but we want to put them on record. This is the updated traffic study that we're going to do. Even if it's not done yet, don't wait for that. Come back here and show us the timeline. So you can work with our staff to figure out if and when you come back and get back on the agenda for this commission. But we encourage you to do it sooner rather than later.
When is the next meeting?
So let me go to Mr. Varndenker and have him explain to you how you would get agendized and on our docket.
Yeah, once you complete your work, you can send us a request for, or a petition for a hearing, and then we'll schedule you at our earliest possible convenience.
When you say finish our work, finish the things that we've just discussed in the last couple of minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we're looking for is, you may not have finished your architectural design, but you'll have an idea of who's doing it, how long it'll take, when you can get plans, when you can go for permitting. What's that schedule look like? When we can see it on a PowerPoint or a Blackboard, and you can submit it to us. But the process is that when you're ready, you contact staff and you request a hearing, and we'll just accommodate that as soon as possible, as opposed to us having a regular meeting dates and you just show up. We would design it. It would be agendized specifically for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, at this point in time, I'd like to give the public an opportunity for a second round of public testimony if they so desire. So is there anyone here who would like to...
Recording in progress.
Who would like to provide public testimony on what they've, on the Emmanuel Lutheran portion of today's meetings? This is the second opportunity. Seeing none, we'll proceed. Commissioners, this has been a status report. We're not required to take any action at this time, although we've already given some specific guidance to the petitioner. If no action is taken, the requirement of continued annual status reports should just remain intact. But if commissioners feel that a concern has not been addressed and we need to be more specific and take action, we can do that at this time. So the chair will entertain a petitioner status, will either entertain a petitioner status report as not sufficiently addressed to the commissioner's concerns, and that further meetings or status updates are necessary to provide the opportunity to do so at a future date, to be determined by the LUC staff. Or if we feel that there is reason to believe the petitioner will not adhere to the conditions set forth in the DNO, and request that staff move forward with a formal order to show cause proceedings, which would mean that we think you might be in violation of the order. So, commissioners, your discussions on how we proceed would be welcome at this time.
Mr. Chair.
Who is that?
That's me.
Mr. Ohigashi, Commissioner.
I move that we grant additional time to Emmanuel Lutheran Church to provide us an updated status report, and that said be scheduled by the staff.
So this is not an extension of your 2025 deadline. This is just if I understand correctly, Mr. Ohigashi, that the motion is to request a follow-up status report for the items of concern that were expressed today by the commission. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
Mel Clearly, I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Kiley. Any further discussion on this point?
Chair,
Commissioner Carsmith?
I would just be concerned or suggest possibly adding to the motion that the reason for that is because the status report was insufficient.
So noted. So Commissioner Higashi, are you willing to accept this friendly amendment?
I have no problem in accepting it. I was going to do some discussion about it, but that's fine. I don't need to discuss it then.
Okay, so the motion as amended, and who had second? Commissioner Kahele, you also second the amendment?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. So let me state my understanding of the motion. The motion is for you to come back for that updated status report, work out the schedule of when you can do that with our staff. And the reason we're asking you to do that for the items of concern that have been expressed today by this commission and have been agreed to by the county and the state is because we felt that the report today in terms of its detail was insufficient. And we don't have a good grasp of exactly where you stand and how you're going to proceed in detail. And that's what we need. Okay? So further comments by the commissioners on the motion.
Chair,
Commissioner Lee.
on the proposed amendment to the original motion, I'd like to see if we could put some kind of a time on there. I don't want this to take 9 months, because then we might as well just wait a year. Would 6 months be something that would be agreeable to you guys?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if we need to amend the amendment.
We would. So, and it could be less than 6 months if you're ready, obviously. But Commissioner Higashi, would you?
I have no problems 6 months from now. I think I should be on.
Okay.
Chair, I got no problem, Chair.
Okay, so the motion, I'm sure Mr. Horndecker has all of this down, is to come back with an updated status report addressing all of the concerns that have been expressed today by the commission and as concurred to by the county and the state. And the reason for that is that we found that what you had to share with us today doesn't sufficiently address our questions. And thirdly, that we'd like you to work out the details of when you schedule that with our staff, but with a target of nominally 6 months or sooner, you can come back. Fair enough? Okay. Anybody want to comment? Commissioner Carsmith?
I just have a question for staff since I'm still learning here. Does staff provide the petitioner with a list of the things that we want clarification on, or no? That's their kuleana to know that.
Usually the transcript of the proceeding provides the concerns, but we have at times at the commission's request sent letters to the petitioners laying out what the specific concerns are.
I think that'd be a great idea, especially since these guys have not been to this rodeo before and they don't want to fall off their horse. So the more guidance that we could offer them in assistance. So let me ask the staff to, consistent with the transcripts of today's meeting, provide the petitioner as much guidance, specific guidance of the questions and issues that need to be addressed.
We can do that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Assuming the motion passes.
Assuming the motion passes, yeah. Mr. Lee, you got your light on. Anything else?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Anybody else? Okay, so I'm going to call for a roll call vote on the motion. So please restate the motion and take the roll call vote. Mr. Horndecker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. due to the today's status report being insufficient, we would like to grant the additional time to Emmanuel Lutheran Church to provide the LUC an updated status report addressing all of the Commission's concerns at a hearing scheduled by staff within 6 months. Commissioner Ohigashi.
Aye.
Commissioner Kahele.
Aye.
Commissioner Anta.
Aye.
Commissioner Carr-Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Okuda is absent. Commissioner Kamakeo Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Yamane.
Aye.
Chair Giovanni.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes with 8 unit votes.
So one other comment. What we just did was to tell you to come back and tell us the details. What we did not do is recommend a show cause hearing which says we think you're in violation and you're at risk of losing of the decision and order being reverted. So we're not there. So this is an opportunity for you to do your homework and come back and answer our questions. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Let's see where I'm at. So we'll move on to our next order of business, which will be the status and progress report on A07773B from WAIKAPU Development Venture. So, please be informed that the relevant records and documents pertaining to this matter can be accessed or reviewed on the LUC website, specifically under Pending Documents tab. Interested parties are welcome to review these documents. And we'll now move forward with public testimony. So, for members of the public, again, please be reminded that the Commission will not be considering the merits of this petition, but rather the Commission is interested in learning about the current state of the activities related to the docket, including compliance with the conditions and whether or not action is necessary. So now we'll recognize any public testimony that has been written, public testimony that's been submitted in this manner. Ms. Kwan, has there been any written public testimony?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I'll now call on members of the public who would like to provide testimony before us today. Are there any members of the public that like?
We have first up Bruce Ubu. I think I said that right.
So, Mr. Uu, would you please state your name, affiliation, and address for the record, and then I'll swear you in.
Use the mic. Turn on the mic. Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Bruce Uu, lifelong Maui resident, testifying on behalf of Maui Nui Empowered.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give would be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Again, I'm on behalf of Maui Nui Empowered. It's a non-profit which mission serves to promote all housing needs for Maui County residents. To put it simply, we are in dire need of homes. Sadly, our Maui residents are our #1 export. Projects like WAIKAPU Development Venture gives 80 families an opportunity to home ownership. Pivoting to another way, saying it differently, my niece who lived with me for 5 years got a home, I say about 3 years ago, through the development of abutting this subdivision. The problem is there are few and far between the projects. So any way you guys can support projects like these moving forward, housing projects, will be greatly appreciated. I humbly ask for your support. Mahalo for your time to testify. I'm really happy how you guys help people along the way. So I was sitting in the back, minding my own business, but listening how you guys conduct yourselves. I was really impressed. And again, if you guys can pass this project, we'll be even better. Aloha, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for coming forward. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
As well. So we're going to open it for people who may have some questions for you.
Sure.
So first of all, for the petitioner, WAIKAPU, you have any questions?
Jeff Uyoka. Thank you, Mr. Ugu. No questions.
Thank you. State?
No questions.
County?
No questions, Chair.
Okay, commissioners, questions or comments? Again, thank you for...
I'd just like to add one thing. My niece just 2 months ago gave birth to twins, so I'm so fortunate she has her own place. So, aloha again.
Thank you for adding to the population of Maui County. Okay, I'm cognizant of the time. It's 11:15.
We only have one more
And
testimony.
I think we have one more. Please.
Sandy again.
You're still under oath, so just restate your name for the record.
Thank you, Chair. Sandy Boz. It's interesting because Bruce, one of the first things I worked with him back in 2003 was on the idea of trying to figure out what's wrong with our housing on Maui and how to address the affordability and the need. And it's still a problem, obviously. And this project, while it's only 80 homes, it's critical. This is the area that people. I live actually really close by in Maui, and so I'm a resident of that area, and just support the development itself and the commission giving the review and extension that they need to be able to move the project forward. As you'll hear, they've done a lot of activity and since then, and really want to make sure that they have the ability to get the job done. So please support this project and ask your support as well. Dire need, especially with the fires, and we have so many families that are overcrowded right now. It got worse, and so we want to make sure that any opportunity we can to provide affordable housing to people gets pushed forward and moved forward. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And sadly, the issues that you're facing are statewide, but Maui is the focal point today.
Yes, thank you.
So, questions, commissioners, or let's start with the petitioner. Any questions for the witness?
Jeff Uyoka. Thank you very much, Mr. Boz. No questions.
Okay, state?
No questions.
County?
No questions, Chair.
Commissioners, any questions? Hearing none. Thank you for your time again.
Thank you, Chair.
So, time for your petitioner to do their status report. Can you give us an idea, just overall, what you plan to do and how much time you would like for your presentation?
Thank you, Chair. Jeff Uyoka. I have a slideshow, quick one. I think it can be quick. Maybe we can do that before lunch, if okay with you guys.
So, I think if we you do your prepared slideshow, then we'll basically come back and do questions after lunch. Is that what you're suggesting?
I think if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I think so. We got about 15 minutes, so is that sufficient for you?
But Jeff Uyoka, I think I can get it done quick.
And you've made a copy of the slideshow available to staff?
Not yet.
But you will?
I will.
Okay, so please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Just a reminder, WAIKAPU Development Venture, 80 units in Wailuku, WAIKAPU. Total cost to construct we're looking at is a little under $49 million. Owners have invested over $5 million at this point in the project, and they've secured a county subsidy of $10.65 million. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So it's the October 18th, 2023 status update. Just to put everything in perspective, this is a location map. It's the EMMANUEL Lutheran portion of the parcel. This is the WAIKAPU development portion of the parcel. Highways here, Waiale Road runs along here. So background, July 11, 2019, there was a findings of fact conclusion law decision order from the LUC and bifurcating the project from the Emmanuel Lutheran and, just basic approvals generally. Completion of project deadline was July 11, 2023. We've passed that at this point. In 2018, Resolution 18150 was a 201H approval to give this project the county entitlements. Construction commencement deadline was met, which was September 7th. Extended in September of 2020 due to COVID. Resolution 107 in 2020 extended the construction of completion deadline, and we got it further on to September 7th, 2024, and it was approved in 2020. So the approved project description was 100% residential workforce housing units, 80 units on 74 lots, 68 single family, with 6 duplex dwellings for 12 units. Income group distribution, the 12 duplexes were intended to go to 7, or low income group. The low moderate income group were 12, 40 for the moderate income group, and 16 in the above moderate. So this is the changes. Instead of having the duplexes, we're going to go all single family dwelling units, and we're still going to market them at the low income group. So as you can see, this was the old project layout. Here were the duplex units, here was the park, and this is the new project layout on the right without the park. So this gives you an idea of the pricing of the units. Depending on interest rates, we're going to follow the County of Maui's affordable housing guidelines, and we're actually going a little further with the Bill 107. That was one of the conditions of the county funding, so they're a little lower. It takes into account 31% for total housing costs. 31% of your annual income can go towards your mortgage payment, and that would also include total housing costs as opposed to what it normally was, just 30%. So as you can see, these units, 3 bedrooms, will be very, very affordable. All that will be contingent on the time we actually market them and sell them, of course. So we heard Commissioner Atta's concerns at the last meeting regarding the removal of the park. So we did an analysis because we're not getting any denser, we're not building more units, we're just doing single family instead of duplexes. So as you can see from this analysis, there were 319,177 square feet of lot. Now with the proposed 80 single family lots, there's 375. So we've increased, the lot size have increased essentially. And the impervious surfaces, they have gone up a bit, about 10,000 square feet total, based on these assumptions that a single family home will have 2,000 square feet of impervious surface, and a duplex will have about 2,300 square feet of impervious surface. So it actually worked out to an increase in yard space of approximately 45,000 square feet, about 570 square feet per unit. But of course we lost about 27,000 square feet of park. So we did an analysis on the overall green space in the project. So as you can see with the yards, we have less roads and sidewalks. More yard, less roads and sidewalks, less open space parking drainage because the park's gone. But we still end up with around 27,200 square feet of additional green space with the removal of the roads, some sidewalk reduction, and the park. So net overall, there's more green space in the project now.
Just one quick clarification. The original duplexes, did they have any yards?
They did, very small though.
So now it's all homes with larger yards?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we went through that go, no-go analysis at the last meeting. The county subsidy, it's been approved. It's in the FY24 budget. The 201H amendment, we haven't submitted it. We were ready, had some discussions internally, and early August there was a disaster on Maui, so we haven't pursued that with the county at this time. Moving forward with that, we want to touch base with some of the county council members to see on their availability scheduling. So we're being sensitive to that. And also our 2-lot subdivision is not quite done. We're very close to, as I said. So the 2-lot subdivision, the water improvements were completed in July 2023. We're awaiting acceptance of those improvements by the water department. it's complicated, but we're close. We're close. And after that's done, the fire department will need to inspect the lines because we also did some hydrants. They'll need to inspect all of that. Once that's all done, our 2-lot subdivision should be complete. Then we'll take care of deeding the lots out, to, one to us and one to Emmanuel Lutheran Church. The subdivision infrastructure plans and permitting, they're very far along. I want to say they're almost done, but haven't submitted them yet. We're pending on the 2-lot subdivision be completed and the 201H amendment. House plan developments are still in process. We've made progress. They're not completely done as the 2-lot subdivision is incomplete, nor is the 201H amendment. Subdivision infrastructure improvements, county water line and sewer. So the county water line extension, as I mentioned, is completed. We're awaiting exception. We checked. County sewer capacity is currently available for the project. They typically will not fully commit until you pull a building permit. That's when they'll tell you the absolute yes. My understanding is planning did check with wastewater and there are no major sewer line improvements that will be required for this project. Construction loan, we have letters of support from a couple of banks. However, they won't fully commit until they've reviewed the construction documents, pro formas, and bids. So all we can get is a preliminary, yes, you've done projects before, we will work with you, but they won't say, here's your money, or guarantee anything at this point. But we are moving towards that. Next steps, tomorrow my understanding is we'll hopefully get the time extension and the approval of the 201H modification. I guess you guys aren't approving the 201H, but you're recognizing it because we did have the requirement to follow the old 201H plan. So we're hoping you'll approve what we submitted or authorize us to build to what we are submitting to the county council. Then we'll have to go to the county council. It's an amendment to site plans, modification of exemptions, and extension of construction completion deadline. Then we'll have to submit an affordable housing fund application. It's appropriated, but we still have to go through the application process for the $10.65 million with the county. And finally, then we'll start physically getting our subdivision improvement approvals, building them, getting building permits, and then building homes. So we did go through the conditions. We did talk with Emmanuel Lutheran. So as you guys have mentioned, no matter what, both parties are required to comply with all conditions. The big ones were the condition 2 was a project completion. WDV's deadline expired in 2023, and Emmanuel Lutheran will be responsible for meeting their July 11th, 2025 completion or getting that extension. The condition 5 relating to highway and roads, so basically it was a TIAR update and mitigation. So when we read it, ELC has to update it when school opens for classes. That's how we saw it. And for our project, it's unspecified. Maybe after lunch, we have some information and discussion relating to condition 5 that we'd like to present to the committee, and hopefully something can be figured out tomorrow during our actual motion to amend our DNO. Cultural impact assessment requirement, as we previously stated, it's a requirement of both parties. One was completed for our portion of the property, but we are going to work with our consultant and see if a update can be done. And basically, my understanding is the survey found that while the project area may have been used for traditional habitation, farming, and gathering, much of those activities stopped as land ownership changed in the area, and the project was utilized for modern agricultural activities. So then, to the extent Native Hawaiian rights will be affected, it goes on to state, WAIKAPU is an important region for traditional and customary practices, and there are many Hawaiian families that continue to live in the area. Practitioners identified plants with culturally important that grow within the project area, but these plants are common and can be easily found in the larger region. There is no adverse impact to the practitioner's ability to access these plants anticipated to result from the project. So that was the findings there, and we would imagine it would be very similar as we share the same 25-acre parcel for ELC, but we need to check with our Honua Consulting on that. Finally, timeline. We're hoping at the end of this year we can get your approval. 201H amendment, starting the process, maybe if we're lucky get finished through the county council. We're hoping to complete the 2-lot subdivision this month. We'd like to submit our subdivision construction plans and house plan development finalized this year. Late next year, we'd like to start building the subdivision improvements, and hopefully we can do our subdivision improvements and our building permit processing concurrently. 25, we'd like to start building the homes and do the marketing, buyer applications, lottery, and sales contracts later in the year. And hopefully in 26, homes will be done and people can start moving in. And then we anticipate the full build out of the 80 homes probably will take a little, a year, maybe a little longer. So, and hopefully we can meet September 2027. And if you guys will give us that time, and we'll come back if we do need more time. Thank you.
Thank you. So, you're right on the money, time-wise. Just one quick question. Is it 80 homes now or 74? What is it?
80 homes. The old lineup was 74 lots. Single-family lots, 6 duplex lots.
Okay, but the same number of homes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Let's take a break now for lunch. It's 11:30. Since we got to walk over and walk back.
Mr. Chair, just a request, if we could have that presentation for us for the afternoon session that was just presented. Is it possible to request that information? Your slideshow.
You want me to email it to the staff?
Yeah,
sir?
that'll be great.
I'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So ordered. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll reconvene at 12:30.
It's definitely back on the record. So we'll come back to you. So we concluded with your presentation of the first PowerPoint. You sent over a copy of the PowerPoint and then a new attachment. Could you explain that second attachment you sent over?
Jeff thank you. Just a discussion. We met with EMMANUEL Lutheran yesterday, and we had some comments on condition 5. Mr. Hopper, I think Deputy Director was somewhere he might have to go at 1:30. So,
sorry, Chair. We have the Deputy Housing Director today, and I've been informed that he's available till 1:30. I don't know if there will be questions for housing. This would be maybe on the county's role as far as the affordable housing project and the county's position from an affordable housing standpoint. But he's available till 1:30 today. So I don't know if there's an option to go to him. I understand we haven't done our presentation and everything, but if there's questions on that aspect that he could answer, I would offer him up, if possible, to have that part completed, just so we can get if there's questions on that realm. And I apologize again, but I think that he'd be good to answer some of the questions you have.
And your presentation, how long is that? If you do go, given
not very long. I mean, I think we could even rest on the motion or the response to the motion that we have filed. I think, frankly, it's more important to have Salmalu available for the questions and not miss out on that.
So, basically what I'm hearing between the petitioner and the county is that you want to suspend your presentation and Q&A with you and shift to the county, and then we'll return back to you, or depending on the question, you might come to you directly. Is that right?
Jeff Uyoka, that would work for us. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay. So, if there's no objections by the commission...
I have a question.
Commissioner Oigashi.
Mr. Hopper, will he be available tomorrow on the extension of time, or is this the only time?
Mr. Mataafa is checking, but I don't believe for the whole day, and there's a possibility that no. So I think that's why we were looking at having him today.
Okay. I just wanted to know if he won't be here tomorrow.
Yeah, he can check. We'll check now, but the availability might be. He'd be available from 10 to 11 tomorrow, he said. And I don't know what your schedule's going to be for tomorrow. So that's why we thought. And again, I apologize, but I think some of these questions...
That's very helpful and appreciate it. I mean, if we can't get it all done today and there's lingering questions, we'll arrange for it to meet his time at 10 to 11 tomorrow.
Yes, and I'll be here and the rest of the county folks, but he won't be available for the whole day tomorrow.
That works. So, Mr. Hopper, why don't you give us your presentation and we'll open it up for commissioners' questions regarding anything you have to say or housing.
Yes, very briefly, the County of Maui Department of Planning did file a position statement on the motion, not necessarily anything specific to the status report, but I think it covers the same topics. The county is in support of allowing an extension for this project and the proposed modifications so as to allow the project to move forward. The county council has provided conditionally some funding for this project, and I have Planner Ann Kua and Deputy Director of the Department of Housing and Human Concerns, Salmalu Mataafa, here to perhaps give a brief statement of the county's position on that aspect, or answer questions if you've got those questions. So, Mr. Mataafa, I think we would, I think, swear him in at this point and give him access to microphone.
Yeah, Mr. Mataafa, you'd have to use your...
Yeah, do you want him on the there or over here?
Why don't you go over there and then we can speak to both of you, probably save a little time.
Good idea.
So, Mr. Mataafa, let me just say up front, thank you. I know you're pretty busy these days, and appreciate you making the time for us. So please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Thank you, Commission. My name is Salmalu Mataafa, and I'm the Deputy Director for the Department of Housing and Human Concerns with the county.
And do you swear the testimony today be the truth?
Yes, the truth. Thank you.
Okay, please proceed with any statement you might have.
I'll just reiterate some of the discussion and public testimony that you guys heard already. The department is in support of this project being built and for the extension of the modification that they had requested. As you all know, two events happened, the COVID-19 pandemic and then also the Lahaina wildfires. So before the pandemic, the county needed 10,000 units by 2025, and that need has been further exacerbated. So the need for housing is really crucial, and even though it is only 80 units, it will add to that inventory. So we appreciate you taking the time to consider it.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Mataafa or the county? Commissioner Ohikashi.
Yeah. How familiar are you with the funding of the council's funding in this matter?
Yes, so I'm pretty familiar. The council made the budget allocation this past May at their budget session, and that's one of the steps that it takes in order for that funding to be recognized for the project. The other step is for the administration to take an application from the petitioner, and we'll vet that, and we'll make a decision too based off of what they're requesting for the reimbursement of their funding.
And these funds were allocated by budget amendment, is that right?
That's correct.
And then, is there a term? In other words, is there a date when they expire, or?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, so the funds were recognized in the FY24 budget for the county. The fiscal year runs through from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. So within that period, the petitioner would need to be able to sign a grant agreement with the county and the department specifically in order to move forward with that funding request.
And with the funding request, would it be correct to say that with the county subsidy, would it be correct to say that this becomes a project that is public in nature?
Can you clarify that question, please?
Well, whenever you use public funds for a project, it becomes a public kind of project, isn't it? Or isn't that right?
I think the department would still look at the project being a private project that would be carried out by the petitioner, but they would be receiving public funding, and it would be subject to any laws pertaining to that funding.
So as such, would the developer be able to control who applies for this project?
So you're requesting whether the petitioner has the ability to discern who can apply for the project based off of public funding?
Yes.
I think it would depend on whether they are also receiving any state funding too, because there are requirements for funding that they may receive through HHFDC if they're going that route. But for the county funding, no, there's no requirement for the Affordable Housing Fund, but one of the requirements for the county is being eligible under Chapter 2.96, which is our residential workforce housing code, which requires certain eligibility requirements.
And does that mean that only Maui residents can apply for this?
No, sorry.
What does that mean then? Who can apply?
It would be open to anybody to apply for the project.
If they didn't receive this funding, would they be able to restrict who will be able to apply?
Yeah, I'll defer real quickly to Mr. Uyoka.
Jeff Uyoka. So we're a Chapter 201H project, so we're 100% affordable. We are going to follow that regardless of the county funding. And part of the 201H process when you work with the County of Maui is you follow Chapter 2.96 in regards to affordable housing selection, application, lottery, etc. So we will be following the county rules. Thank you.
Who from the county will be ensuring that these rules are followed?
It would be through our department with our housing division staff.
And are there specific guidelines besides 2.96 that you have to follow? In other words, are there agency rules that you have to follow?
The other chapter would be, I think it's Chapter 3.35 with the Affordable Housing Fund. There's requirements there that the applicant would need to follow as well.
And would those regulations preclude, for example, a mainland person from applying for housing in that area? A mainland resident?
We can't exclude mainland residents from applying for the project.
Recording in progress.
And about the funding, given the circumstances of the fires and the incredible need probably for monies for immediate relief for residents, are these monies locked in, or is there, or what, can they be reallocated for any other purpose?
So right now, for the budget, they did receive council approval, which is a big step for getting funding from the county. The other step is, I talked about earlier, is on the administration side, making sure that we can understand the scope of what the funding will be used for, and that, you know, we can issue a grant agreement between the county and the developer of the project. So there are a couple more steps that need to be followed before the funding can be, you know, the funding grant agreement can be executed, but having that council approval is a big first step of getting there.
I'm just curious, what other approval is necessary?
So they would need to get the approval from the administration, Mayor Bisson and his team, through us, DHHC.
And what is the timetable for receiving that?
I believe Mr. Uyoka presented earlier that before that grant agreement can be executed, one of the steps is making sure that they get their modification in for the 201H application. And so once once council is able to move forward with that 2-1H modification, it's a signal for us that we can move forward and have these discussions with the petitioner on executing that grant agreement for funding.
And so so the answer to the question is yes, everybody wants to do it. Everybody's pulling in that way. But what is required is a certain modification of the 201H conditions. However, you cannot say that it can be repurposed for some other use should the need arises. Would that be a fair statement?
Currently it's earmarked in our budget, so we couldn't right now use that funding for another project.
And the last question I have is that how many other projects have received this type of funding?
Are you referring to this fiscal year or in general?
In general. First of all, in general, and if you have any this fiscal year would be good.
Generally, we get anywhere from 10 to 15 applications for Affordable Housing Fund. And then what happens is it goes through a committee that looks at them in a totality. So from a bird's eye view, they'll look at all the funding sources that a project may receive, and there's other eligibility requirements for the funding that they'll take a look at, and then they'll score all those proposals. And so once that scoring is done, that gets sent to the mayor. So you'll have, all the projects ranked from 1 to 15 if you have 15 applications, and then based off of the funding available, the mayor will decide which projects to fund based off that priority eligibility and the amount available in the Affordable Housing Fund or projected for the next fiscal year.
And so, can you give us an example of how the fund was used recently, or who has been granted the fund?
Yeah, I can speak generally. Generally, what the fund is used for is for leveraging of other funding, because we don't give out huge amounts out of the Affordable Housing Fund in the totality of these projects, which can go up to hundreds of millions of dollars, some of them, some others tens of millions of dollars. What happens is the Affordable Housing Fund is usually used to leverage funding at the state or the federal government or other private financing sources. So it's mainly used as seed funding, where the developer can go ahead and then use that to show other financiers that, hey, I have approval from the county for this amount of money. Would you be willing to also, look at my application for the developer?
Can you give me an example of where it has been used this year or subsequent years?
Yeah, so, sorry.
Just, who have you given money to? That's what I want to know.
Okay, so, so most of the projects that you've seen are in construction right now, have utilized Affordable Housing Fund. A lot of the ones are LIHTC projects. So there's the ones out in West Maui, Kai'oulu o Kupuohi was one of them. Sorry, I'm butchering the name. Kai'oulu o Kukuia is another one that applied for Affordable Housing Fund. And then there's also a few other developments in Kihei. And if you're familiar with LIHTC projects, those are typically geared for 60% of the AMI and below. So a lot of those projects will use it. And then we also have requests for sale projects as well. A couple on the books from last year, and then some on the books for this year too for funding.
And my last question is that the $10 million, is that an unusual amount? Is it a large amount compared to the other people who receive the money?
Yeah, so typically we give out anywhere from, I'll say, $5 to $10 million. So it's a little bit at the higher range of the average from the department, from the Affordable Housing Fund to give out, but it's not unusual.
And I'm sorry, lawyers always lie. They said that's the last question. So I wanted to.
Is that true, Mr. Hopper?
That's,
I'm gonna put an objection on the record.
Is that, so generally, do you give out more? Is a 5 to 10 million, is that a conglomerate of all the projects? Or is that each individual projects that you can give out? Because I'm not sure of what the total fund is available at this present time. No.
So for this past fiscal year, when the budget session was going on, I think the amount was 43 million in the total pot. But since the fire, I think that'll affect the amount that we can collect through real property to fund that amount. So the department is taking a more holistic view of all the projects that submitted and were approved at the budget session or during budget session. So I would take that into consideration as well.
So, being a simple person, I don't quite understand what you just said. My question was more like, does it, how much do you give out every year? Is it 5 to 10 million? Like, is that what you're referring to, or is it all 40 million, or all 30 million, or what?
Typically, we have more applications than we can fund that come through the department. So we typically do utilize most of that appropriation coming out of that fund for the projects.
$43 million is available normally.
It's based off of I believe it's 8% of real property tax goes into the affordable housing fund.
But it was about 40 million.
It changes from year to year, but generally around
Last
that
year.
number. Yeah.
Chair,
I just want to know.
Chair, I think.
I don't have any questions.
But Chair, just for the record, I think it's 3% of the annual budget rather than 8 for affordable. But we can have that information provided. I think it's.
So in the charter it says 3%, but the mayor this past fiscal year he moved it up to 8% of the real property tax.
Yes, stand corrected. Just for the clarification, there's a charter requirement and then what was done. Correct.
Is that the final question?
Yeah.
Commissioners, anybody else like that?
Chair, I have a question.
Commissioner Lee.
Deputy Director, so you mentioned that this project was seeking 201H from the city. Do you know, or from the county, do you know if, or maybe this question is for Mr. Uyoka, do you know if the developer is also going to seek 201H money from the state?
Jeff Uyoka, not intending to seek money from the state.
Okay. Deputy Director, so the 201H at the county, that $10 million is cash that they're seeking, or is it in kind? Does that include sewer fee hookup waivers, plan review waivers, property tax? What does that 10 million consist of?
Right now it's $10.65 million to the development. When they come in for their application, we'll be able to get down to that level of detail on where the money is going to go to for their project.
Okay, so that could be waivers of fees and, no? I see Mr. Uyoka shaking his head.
If I may, thank you. Jeff Uyoka, it's 10.65 million when we present it to the county. That's just to make the project pencil. The county passed Bill 107 a few years ago, or not even a few years ago, a year or two ago, but it changed the real property, the affordable housing prices. So it lowered them. That coupled with the increase in interest rates causes the affordable housing guidelines to make the prices go down. So the prices went down because of interest rates, further down because of Bill 107. And the cost of borrowing money increased tremendously as interest rates increased, and the cost of construction, both materials and labor, went up tremendously. So the project wasn't penciling. It was brought up to one of the council members, the county council members, and they suggested that we approach the county to ask for an appropriation from the Affordable Housing Fund. Councilmember Cook did make the proposal at the budget deliberations. It was approved in the FY24 budget, as Deputy Director stated. So that money is just to kind of make the project pencil. So there are also a few 201H exemptions that are built into the county code that allow for fee waivers and etc. But those are smaller in scale to this 10.65 million. Also, just for clarification, we did go in and ask for a lesser amount, but we asked to follow the old affordable housing sales guidelines. The council elected to give us the bigger amount to go to the even lower prices. So just clarification. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Uoka, do you think that the developer will be seeking additional fee waivers, plan review waivers, hookup waivers from the city? And you said that's a small amount, but in Honolulu County, it's in the millions when they do this. I guess you're saying for your project, do you have a ballpark idea how much more they would be asking the county for?
Oh, when I said small, the ones that are already cooked into the county code, when you do a 100% affordable housing project, there's certain fees that are just waived. They're not astronomical, but water hookups, we're probably not going to get a waiver for that. Those are around $12,000 per unit. We're probably not going to get a waiver from the DOE. It's probably, is it $3,500 per unit or in that ballpark in Wailuku? So those are big numbers, don't get me wrong, but we aren't seeking waivers for those.
Plan review waivers, sewer hookup waivers?
I'm not sure if the building permit fee review is one of those.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. We're not planning on asking for anything else though.
I was just trying to get an idea of if additional help might be needed from the county, but going back to Deputy Director, you mentioned that this was a 201H project and it's a use of government funds. Would this project fall under State Chapter 104 for prevailing wages for the contractors?
Yes.
Okay. All right, no more questions.
I love one-word answers. They're just yeah, thank you. Just two questions. So we saw today that the design of the units went from basically all single family instead of the duplexes. From your position in county government, what's your reaction to that from a policy perspective? Do you support it? Do you prefer more duplexes, more dense multiple dwelling? What are you looking for in projects like this?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so we do support it because the unit count isn't changing. If the unit count changed, it would probably warrant us to look further into why those changes were being made, but because it's still staying at 80 units, the department still supports the project.
And second question, also maybe a policy question. This is all for sale?
Recording in progress.
Versus for sale and rental or all rental. Do you have a preference from a policy perspective from the county when you look at a project like this?
Thank you for the question. And if you look at the latest data that the Hawaii Housing Planning Study had, and it was a 2019 study, it's quite old compared to what we're dealing with now. They plan to update it in 2023. We need housing across all AMI levels at almost every type of housing unit. So we do need rentals, but we also have shown that a lot of the rental need is being taken care of by LIHTC for the lower AMI. There's not a lot of focus for anything above 60% AMI, and so this project would be welcomed in Maui County because it does help chip away at that need that we need for the higher AMI end. And we also do need market rate rentals and for sale across the board. We need all types of housing at all different AMI levels.
And I don't know if this is a question for you or Mr. Uoka, but is there what is planned or baked in terms of deed restrictions for resale of these units? Will it be required to sustain the low income requirements?
Jeff Uoka. So it is a 201H project. So there's a 10-year resale restriction. So I think sales prices go up 1% per year if you're going to resell during that period. And we're working with the we're going to work with the county council. We've discussed with the administration what they'd like to see as far as further deed restrictions. That was part of the discussion we had when the budget appropriation was made. They knew that when we came back in for the 201H amendment, they could work with us on further deed restrictions.
So that sounds pretty open-ended. So from a county's perspective, what is your position for these projects, or if you have one, for a deed restriction for resale beyond 10 years?
Right now, we would follow the code 2.96. Chapter 2.96, there's specified deed restrictions for years based off of your income category. Because there hasn't been a bigger policy discussion on it yet, we would still follow that chapter 2.96.
Okay, I'm good with that. Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Could you refresh my memory? What's the square footage of these homes?
Jeff Uyoka, I believe they're average around 1,200 square feet, maybe a little less, some of them.
Okay, so I like to do this with a lot of projects. Is I take the full amount, 50 million, divided by 80 units, and it comes out to $625,000 per unit. And if I divide that by 1,200 square foot, that's $520 a square foot. So I'm going to ask the county, do you feel that that's a good investment?
Sorry, you spoke quickly. Could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so the project is supposed to cost about $50 million for 80 units, and that comes out to about $625,000 per home. The all-in cost, I'm assuming that is. Then, did the county do that kind of an analysis? Because some people might argue that you're better off giving somebody $500,000, they can buy something with no strings attached, build equity. So do you feel that that's, I know it's reaching the lowest AMI levels, but did the county do analysis on the value of this proposal?
Thank you. Generally, yes, we would support it, but we won't get to that point until we review the application with the developer when they submit it after their 201H approval. So we'll get to that level of detail at that time.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, your pleasure. Okay, Mr. Hopper, anything else?
I don't think I have anything to add. Again, we'll have Ms. Kua and Ms. Furukawa available, and I will be here, obviously. But if there's any more questions for Mr. Mataafa, I think now would be the time. If not, then we can be finished with our presentation.
So, petitioner, I'm going to give you an opportunity to comment or rebut anything you heard from the county.
Thank you, Jeff Weaver. Deputy Director, just to confirm, you guys are reviewing an EA exemption for the project under 11-200.1, which allows for an EA exemption for affordable housing projects where the only trigger is the use of county funds.
That is correct. We received the request and we're reviewing that now.
Thank you, Mr. Mataafa. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. And Commissioners, any final? Okay, Mr. Hopper, Mr. Mataafa, thank you so much for making the time. And I think you can go.
And I'll just say thank you for having me again. And if you need me, I can be available tomorrow again from 10 to 11 if need be.
Okay, we'll give you a heads up on that as soon as we could. Okay, back to Mr. Uyoka.
Thank you, Chair. As mentioned earlier, we discussed with EMMANUEL Lutheran the condition 5. And if you don't mind, I'd like to share my screen.
Please do. And this slide deck was also distributed to the commissioners during the lunch break, right? Okay.
So, Jeff Uyoka, condition 5 relating to highways and roads. It starts off, so I don't know if you guys want me to read it to you, but it basically discusses that the revised TR to be initiated after phase 1 is completed and approximately 3 months after the date upon which the school opens for classes. To determine the regional and local traffic impacts of the project and recommended appropriate mitigation measures. So That's the first part of condition 5 relating to updating the TIR. The second part relating to alleviating project-generated traffic impacts. So it's basically petitioner shall contribute to or construct state highway improvements in the immediate vicinity of the petition area, including those generated by the project and uses. And the next part is the state DOT coordination, which basically says we need to work with Highways Division. And all of this will be done at no cost to the state. So that's the existing condition 5. So we had as part of the 201H process, a TIAR was done for the WAIKAPU development project. So basically the recommendations coming out of that one were construct one northbound left turn storage lane along Wiley Road at each of the 2 project accesses. Left turn storage lane should accommodate a minimum of 50 feet of storage length. So that would be a county requirement. It does not affect the state highway. Wiley Road, Kuikahi Drive, optimize the signal. So that would also be a county requirement. And they probably would ask for those things as part of subdivision. There'd be a subdivision comment when we go in for our 80 lots. So basically, we did reach out to the traffic consultant who conducted the 2018, and he will be here available for questions if we want to discuss that further tomorrow. He was not available today. But essentially, they did one for Kuikahi Village. It's Mauka, below Wailuku Heights. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the area. Across Kuikahi Drive from Kehalani. And basically, a lot of the studies were the same in very general, similar findings to the approved 2018 TIAR. And they said one of the bigger ones they're looking at is the Waiale Road, Wainu Road intersection. That's, I guess, more, I always mess this up, north. That's north. More north of the Waiale Road, Kuikahi Drive intersection of this project. And it's already included in the State Transportation Implementation Program, or the STIP. I'm not, probably butchered that or got that acronym wrong, but it's in the STIP. It's up for construction. We're hoping it gets done because that has been a need for years. That should help with the queuing along Waiale Road. And then the next one was the approved Kuikahi Village TIR kind of also talked about the future Maui Lani Parkway extension. So that's basically from Baldwin High School. There's that road that runs past like the Safeway and everything. Then it'll go towards the existing Maui Lani subdivision, and it'll connect with the existing Maui Lani Parkway around the LDS church in there. That's quite a major undertaking. That'll be a very difficult road to build based on cultural concerns at a minimum, along with just, it's going to be a difficult road to build. So that's what the current update, he said if we were to do a TR, that's probably what it would say. Those would be the mitigation measures. State DOT commented in 2018, and they said that there's no significant impacts to state highway intersections for this project, and OPSD confirmed that original determination in their report letter. So I guess there's no state highway traffic impacts. So we would respectfully request, I don't know how this will work for you guys, but please don't require WAIKAPU Development Venture or Emmanuel Lutheran Church to spend the money to update a TIAR. They're not cheap to do. There's going to have to be a lot of traffic counts, and I know that's not always the reason why you put a condition on. Cost doesn't have to be a consideration, but we're asking so you understand that. State DOT has already stated there are no significant impacts to the state highways. It would be an additional cost imposed on a 100% residential workforce housing project and a church school. And unknown potential future costs to alleviate being placed on a 100% residential workforce housing project and a church school. It's not part of our motion for tomorrow. We just know there's been a lot of discussion about the allocation of this traffic study and who's going to do what, who's going to be responsible for what. But as a group, you guys did ask us to talk after the last meeting. We have been in discussions, and we were just hoping that somehow, and it might be a separate motion, but we'd really like to discuss the idea of removing this TIAR concept from both projects moving forward. And thank you.
Anything more to present?
We're okay. Thank you.
Okay. So commissioners, any questions you have on either of the PowerPoint presentations or any comments along with those? Commissioner Atta?
You're doing a lot of coordination with
Microphone.
Lutheran Church. You know when you the water and sewer line, are you working with them also in their sewer and water line hookup on the adjacent parcel?
Jeff Uyoka. So, Commissioner, so the 2-lot subdivision was serving both of us, and the requirement was the 12-inch water line and the hydrant. So, yes, WAIKAPU Development Venture took care of that at their expense. And sewer, our understanding is there shouldn't be any need for major sewer upgrades along, still the standard hookups, of course, but not replacing a line or extending a line. Thank you.
Good.
Chair, I got a question.
Commissioner Gailey.
Out of the 80 units, so Uyoka, how many? I mean, what's going to be the average AMI? Is that the 60%? All units going to be 60%?
Jeff Uyoka. So 12 units will be the low income group, which are 70 to 80%. Oh, you want me to pull the slide up? Would that be easier?
Yeah, I may have missed that.
No. Now you gotta bear with me so I can figure out how to. Sorry, 1 second. Shoot. Hey. I think I may have made a promise I can't keep. 12 units will be between 70 and 80%. That's the low income group. 12 units will be between 81 and 100%, which is the below moderate income group. 40 units will be between 101 to 120%, which is the moderate income group. And 16 units will be between 121 and 140%, which is the above moderate group. Did I say 16? 16 is the last one.
16.
Total. Yeah, 16.
And the 16 would be 120 and above?
120 to 140.
What would qualify me being a family, having a family of 2 kids and a wife?
Recording in progress.
For the, actually, let's go to the 80%, 80 to 100% for the, one of the 12 units. How much would I have to make?
Jeff Uyoka. So the max income for that low income group would be $84,640
for a family of 4.
I think that's all income, and I don't think they count kids. So I guess it would be family of however many.
All right.
I think for the county's one.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Lee.
You read my mind. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Uyoka, has the developer been working with or selected or narrowed down its choice of prime contractor for the project?
I don't think it's been decided yet, but one of the members has a civil site work construction company, and one of the members has a home building company. So probably go with one of those, I'd assume, or go with them, I'd assume.
Okay, and was the ownership the same throughout from the beginning, or has the project been sold to a new group of developers?
Jeff Uyoka, sort of. The one partner came in and one member came in and 2 members went out, but 2 or 3 of the other members are still the same.
And those folks, are they Maui people or Maui residents?
Yes, sir. All Maui people, long history here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners? Commissioner Carsmith.
Thank you. Still trying to wrap my head around the relationships. Once you're subdivided and you proceed with your project, is there any scenario where if for some unfortunate reason EMMANUEL Lutheran project does not come together, does that affect you at all?
Thank you, Chair. Member Jeff Uyoka. So once the subdivision is completed, the 2-lot. So technically speaking, it is common ownership right now. We'll do deeds for lot 1 to EMMANUEL Lutheran and lot 2 to WAIKAPU Development Ventures.
Right.
And I shouldn't say fortune, I don't know what I want to call it, but the docket has been bifurcated. So the sins of WAIKAPU Development Venture should not pour over onto EMMANUEL Lutheran and vice versa. That is my hope.
Okay. There's nothing that's shared beyond that? No other easements or sewer lines or anything, water lines that are shared?
We don't anticipate it, and easements, I can't say for certain what the access and everything's going to look like right now, but right now, nothing.
Okay, just wondered. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Are all utilities underground, or do you have some overhead?
Yes, it will be going underground.
So electrical, internet, all underground?
Yes.
Can you expand a little more of your approach to secure the financing from the banks that you're going to? I think you quickly said what has to happen first, and that you've got letters of intent which are useless because they don't guarantee any money. But they're willing to talk with you, I think is what those letters mean. Anyway, could you expand upon your approach and timetable for securing the financing?
Yes, Jeff Uyoka. So I guess the letters of support meant they're not saying no right now, so that was positive in our opinion. The first step, of course, was securing the county grant, the $10.65 million, and it's not secured, but it's been appropriated, so we have to move forward with the assumption it's there. After we get the 2-lot subdivision approved, we're going to move forward with getting I just call it the subdivision, but 80 plus lots, roads and the 80 units and roads and everything. And at some point, we'll have the construction documents, the pro formas, and the bids in place to do all of the site work improvements, the civil improvements. And at that point, we'll probably go and talk to the banks and see. They're going to look at the zip pencil before they loan any money. And we're hoping, I believe my timeline said, that we'll be hopefully mid-24 we'll be going out there. I believe we're hoping to construct the subdivision improvements in late 24, so mid-24 hopefully we can be there. That's hoping though. It's optimistic.
So on the matter of the distribution assignment of the conditions, notwithstanding your request on condition 5, what are you proposing will take place in the ensuing months to clarify who has responsibility for what?
Jeff Uyoka. So there were 23 original conditions, and I think one was removed. I forget which one that was, but it made sense to remove it. Out of most of those, they really were like civil defense, you have to go through SHPD, drainage, that type of stuff, which will both be required to do individually for our projects. The only three that stood out to me as each project had to do was project completion, condition 2, condition 5 related to the highways and roads, as you know, their traffic demand and our traffic demand will be it'll be different. And I should clarify, sorry, when I said state DOT made the comment, it was only for our project. It didn't include the school. And finally, the cultural impact assessment requirement was, we should have done it for both of us. Oversight, kind of tunnel vision when you're in the heat of things trying to get them done. But we do plan on working with Hohenwell Consulting and getting that expanded. So other than that, I'd say condition 2 and 5 would be the only ones that are kind of or I don't know what the word is, but we both have to complete our own separate ways. Or I'm sorry, we both have the, I don't know how to say this right. Separate, but they're linked to each other. I'm not sure, yeah. Hope that makes sense. But if not, most of them will be handled as your own project-specific requirements as you move your project forward.
Okay. Commissioners, anything further? Commissioner Higashi.
If you get the waiver for the environmental assessment, how will that affect the cultural impact assessment for your property and the other, I guess the Emmanuel Lutheran?
As far as the environmental assessment goes, I don't think it'll affect the cultural impact assessment necessarily, or at all actually, because it was a review, an independent review was completed as to the cultural aspects of this. And I will say, because this was a 201H project, as part of the 201H application, many, if not all, of the similar studies that are included in environmental assessment were included in the 201H application. Comment letters were sent out. That's how the 2018 letter was received from State DOT Highways on the roads. But the difference is, because there was no trigger for the project, it was never published in the environmental notice, the document done by the OPSD ERP now, I believe, Environmental Resource Program. So I wouldn't say there'd be any effect to the cultural impact assessment based on an EA exemption for this project. Thank you.
My other question deals with your comment or plea or statement about condition number 5. Is it your intent to file a motion to modify condition number 5? Or are you asking us to sua sponte change it?
Thank you, Jeff Wilka. Yes, Commissioner Ohigashi, if you could please sua sponte change it, I'd really appreciate it.
Probably wouldn't happen, but so my first question was, do you intend to file a motion?
Jeff Wilka, we'll discuss internally. We're thinking about that strongly. Thank you.
The second question is that if you don't file, the way I read the condition was, you build, you finish up, you occupy, but then you got to do a condition of the Land Use Commission. If you don't apply, would it be fair to say it's your intent that you won't follow that? Because there is no enforcement mechanism that the Land Use Commission can do after you build it and the church is built. So if you don't file a motion, wouldn't it be fair for us to assume that you don't intend to follow that condition?
Jeff Uyoka, no, that would not be fair. I don't think we've ever represented that we're not willing to follow the requirement. It just says the requirement as worded is after phase 1 is complete, approximately 3 months after the date upon the school opens for classes. All right, the TIRs was what they were. We're not saying we're not complying with that. It may not apply to us directly, as this project will never be opening a school for classes, but the bigger discussion is, should we come back in, because is it appropriate for either party to be doing an updated TIR? So I'm not going to say we're not going to comply. We will comply with every condition that is applicable to us, but not closing any doors and not trying to be flippant about anything. But I want to make it clear that we are not saying we are not going to comply with anything. Thank you.
I hope that you understand my question.
Jeff Uyoka understood, Commissioner, and it was the way it was phrased was very troubling. I had to clear the record on that. Thank you.
It was meant to be troubling.
Let me remind everyone that going to your PowerPoint on condition 5, it says the TIR would be initiated after phase 1 and the school is operational. So it is not even, as written, any obligation until both projects are complete and operating. That could take forever. Right. So we need to clean this up at a minimum.
And if I may, Chair Jeff Uyoka, it's always scary when you have a open-ended requirement based on you're forced to contribute to or construct state highway improvements. And if you're that far along, it's trouble. The financing is already there, you know what I mean? So we need to address that sooner rather than later. Thank you.
I'll just share my own personal view on this. I think it's messy right now and uncertain, and given you got both parties, a lot of angst and concern because of what that last part you just said. I would encourage you to make a motion to modify this and come up with language that works for you, both of you, as a starting point. And I wouldn't encourage you to wait too long until it becomes a problem later.
Jeff Uyoka, thank you, Chair. Noted.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, stand by. We're going to shift. It's been an hour, so let's take a 6-minute break to 1:40, and we'll return with the state.
Microphone.
Back on the record. So, OPSD, please make your remarks and presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Attorney General Brian Yee. Let me start with the particular issue before you today, which is the status report. And as to that, the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development is satisfied and happy with the content and completeness of the status report. Let me address a couple of issues, however, that arose during this process. Probably the most important question is the issue of Condition 5, which was raised this afternoon. The Office of Planning and Sustainable Development was not aware of this issue until this afternoon. So it would be our position, I think, that this does not affect any of the matters before you today or tomorrow. It does not affect your approval of the status report, and does not affect your approval of the motion for extension of time. This is not to say we are necessarily opposed, but we don't think it would be appropriate to deal with it during this set of hearings. We have not had an opportunity to consider this. We certainly are supportive of this project, and we don't want to do anything to endanger the project, but it doesn't seem to us necessary to deal with it sort of at the last minute, especially where we've had no notice. But we are happy, but I will also say that we are happy to have discussions with WAIKAPU Development, as well as the Department of Transportation, to see what's appropriate. The second issue, which is very much related to that, is the bifurcation of the conditions. Again, doesn't affect any of the matters before you today or tomorrow. We continue to support the motion to amend tomorrow and don't think that issue needs to be decided in order to make that decision. The bifurcation is something that I think is a good idea to do. Sorry, let me be clear about when I say bifurcation. The case was bifurcated. The question is, what did we do about the conditions? So with respect to who is assigned what responsibility, I think it would be a very good idea to be much clearer about this. I don't want to get into an argument as to what is the effect or non-effect if we do nothing. I think maybe we can just all agree it would be better to be clearer. And the Office of Planning is happy to participate in those discussions, even before a motion is filed, as to what's the best way to do that. And I think that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Commissioner Higashi.
Yeah, Brian, or Mr. Yee, I don't want to be too familiar. Mr. Yee, isn't condition number 5 a standard condition requested by the Department of Transportation and to be placed within our DNO? Because I've seen it in every DNO.
So it is a standard condition. I think the deletion of the condition is not my immediate response as a good idea, but perhaps their concerns can be alleviated after we have a further review of the record. So for example, if they have done a TIAR, let's see whether Department of Transportation is satisfied with that and whether anything else needs to be done with respect to WAIKAPU development. I'm not sure a TIR was done for Emmanuel Lutheran, and therefore I think the elimination of a TIR would mean we would have to be approving something for which we have no analysis as to the impacts, if any, from traffic. We're still willing to have a discussion. We're not opposed to either of these projects, but we do want to make sure, and we are also aware that the level of analysis that is done, we're happy to look at whether or not that particular information is needed for a particular project, but it is not something we would sort of automatically say, oh yeah, sure. I mean, this is an important, TIRs are in every single case. And it's in there for a reason, because a TIR doesn't say just make improvements. A TIR looks at what's the impact of your project and see what the impact of your project is, so that you mitigate not just anything, you mitigate the impacts from your project, not impacts from other projects. So, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to prejudge what the outcome of the discussions are going to be, but it is not something we are prepared to say today should be deleted.
Is the position of the state that we should take a look at these TIRs on a case-by-case basis, and therefore in every contested case that we do, we would need information or at least evidence on these TIRs, because basically these are catch-all types of conditions that are normally placed upon and agreed to by the parties when they were originally put on, and they knew far well that these are there. And to say, oh, I'm new, I don't know anything, I just came on board, this is bad for me. So is that kind of like defeating the purposes of placing these catch-all, and we should do it on a case-by-case basis?
So let me step away from this particular case and just talk more generally. The traffic impact, the TI, in almost all cases, we require a TIAR as part of the Chapter 343 process. So it has to be done before you come to the Land Use Commission. We then frequently come to the Land Use Commission and say, in addition to the TIR that was already done, we want an additional update done because things happen. So if you say you're going to get the approval today, but you don't construct for like 10 years, traffic conditions may change. It may be less. I mean, maybe your other improvements will be made before you, and so maybe we don't need something from you. But it might be the opposite. It might be, oh no, you have a lot more impact than we thought you were going to have based upon current conditions, and so now you're going to need a traffic light. or a storage lane or anything else. So the traffic impact, so I think if you're going to assume, what is the assumption? The assumption is you need a TIR. I mean, the idea of doing a case by case, sure, we'll do a case by case in every contested case hearing. But the assumption, I think, generally would be a TIR is needed. A revision is probably going to be needed if this is going to be something that's going to be extending
Recording
out.
in progress.
And the exception would be if someone comes in and says, I don't think I should have to do a revision or an update. We'll look at it, not saying we're going to agree to it, but we'll look at every single case and say yes or no. That's, I don't know if I answered your question directly, but TIR is important. The traffic impacts of, especially large, many of these projects are much larger, are important. Okay.
Is that it? Okay. For you. So just to follow up on this updated TIR, does it make sense to you to do it after the projects are complete? As opposed to prospectively what the impacts might be once they get the design final?
I haven't talked to my client. I will say past practice has been to have a TIR done before they get to you in the first place.
Yeah.
So if one was never done, that would be a red flag. If one was done a long time ago, an update seems like would be the normal requirement that we would. I mean, we're willing to listen to any particular person who says, my project is so small, it couldn't possibly have any additional impact 20 years from now. We will listen to every single issue, but we want to hear it, not just sort of say, okay, fine, let's eliminate the condition.
Fair enough, thank you. Anything else? So I don't have any further. Katya, did you have something you wanted to say?
The TIAR is also impacted by how predictable or unpredictable a particular development is. So based on assumptions about that particular use, some are very stable. A home is very stable in terms of predicting how many cars are going to be needed for a particular home, but a drive-through restaurant is not predictable. And that's where TIAR is after the fact, can really be useful to help mitigate unanticipated impacts.
Fair enough, thank you.
Just a follow-up on that. So in this case, we have a school placing 300, up to 350 kids, assuming they're driven there, bused there, a portion of them are driven and dropped off. Would that be a high-use type of event that would require to look at it?
I think it has less to do with a high-use event as opposed to how predictable it is. So if they're predicting that they're going to be increasing their student population and they've got the basis for that, then...
Katya, could I ask you to...
Yes, hi. Katia Balaciano.
Could you confirm that your remarks to date and your future remarks on this record will be the truth?
I swear.
Thank you.
Katia Balaciano, Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, Land Use Division Administrator. So it has less to do with the quantity of cars or the use, the students, the number of students. If they can predict the number of students based on their past experience, and that could be fairly stable going out. It's certain uses, again, like a drive-through is a very good example where it's, based on economics and it's based on, consumer preferences and competition that's nearby, and that will impact how predictable the number of cars that are, passing through that drive-through will be.
So I'm just, in my mind, I'm asking that question, not necessarily to indicate which way I would like to rule or not rule on any particular, but it would be good in terms of anybody bringing a motion on that regard to have an idea of what type of burden of proof that they have to meet in order to make sure or to find that this type of, in order to modify condition number 5 in the manner that they wish to. Because even if you reach a stipulation, it will still require evidence be placed on the record to try and figure out, to make sure that any decision is supported by evidence in this case. And especially in this case, because you're asking for an exception from a rule that has been required by the state, not the land use commission, but asked that we are asked to put on every single DNO.
Agreed.
No further question.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Carsmith.
Just a quick question about TIARs. Is there a time limit on them? This one appears to be 6 years old, so if it were 4, would it be acceptable, or what's the...
I don't think there's a particular time limit. I think you sort of look at, the engineers will look at that particular project, and they will have a general sense of whether there have been significant traffic changes recently.
Okay, thank you. So, nothing else, yeah. Petitioner, any comments, remarks, rebuttal to state or county?
Jeff Uyoka, no, just comments, no rebuttals. I understand the importance of the TIARs, and I understand why it's a general rule for everyone. I just would hope everyone understands that if you look at the placement of these two projects, and it's an affordable housing project and a church school, the improvements that could be done, they're kind of far away. You know, we're on top of Waiale Road. It's an infill project. So the specifics do matter in this case, I feel. And it's really like a shifting of money, I guess. The state can come in and do all of the improvements at the state's dollar. So can the county. And that all the taxpayers on Maui, or all the taxpayers in the state of Hawaii, would pay for these improvements, and they would share them, because these are all roads that are used by everyone on Maui and everyone in Hawaii. I live up the street from this project, and you know, I use Waiale Road, I use Koikahi Drive, but that's neither here nor there at this point. And talking about the money, I know it doesn't sound like much, but an updated TIR, if we were to both do one, we might be looking at $100,000 between, you know, all the traffic counts, the studies, and all the engineering that goes into it. And yeah, it's a $50 million housing project, but it's an affordable housing project. We're already getting $10.6 million from the county. $100,000 does count there, and they're a church and a school. I don't think they have all of this extra money to be doing studies for the sake of doing studies. But again, I totally understand the policy standpoint, and I will say, when we go in for subdivision improvements, I'm confident the county will look at various things we need to do for traffic impact. So, just a comment. So, appreciate your time, and I don't disagree with anything they said. It makes sense. So, but I'm just saying, from our perspective, that's how we're looking at it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, do you have any final questions or comments for the parties? Public testimony, final call. Is there anybody, any members of the public in the room who wish to testify at this point in time? Okay, seeing none. Further discussion. So, commissioners, this is a status report. We are not required to take any action at this time. If no action is taken, the requirement of continued annual status reports will remain in effect. However, if the commission feels that its concerns have not been addressed based on the comments and responses provided by petitioner, the chair will entertain a motion that either the petitioner's status report has not sufficiently addressed the Commission's concerns, and that further, meetings or status updates are necessary to provide the opportunity to do so at a future date, to be determined by LUC staff. Or that there is reason to believe that the petitioner will not adhere to the conditions set forth in the decision and order, and request the staff move forward with formal order to show cause proceedings. On that basis, do we have any comments or motions from the commissioners?
I have a comment.
Commissioner Ohigashi.
I find that the status report meets the requirements of the Land Use Commission, and I think that given the fact that we have Mr. Oelka's motion tomorrow, as well as maybe more motions later on, according to his word as a lawyer, that any further action is unnecessary in this matter, except for the annual reports.
Thank you for that. Let me add my 2 cents. I agree with the comments of Commissioner Ohigashi. And let me harken back a few months to the previous status report, which we did find to be not adequate, and we counseled you on what we hope to see when you came before us again for an update. And I think you met what we were looking for. I know you don't have absolute answers to every go, no-go decision, even though you thought you might, but you are making great progress on the ones that are still unresolved. But let me confirm with you that you haven't reached any no-go decision as of yet.
Jeff Oilka, that is correct, Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Ohigashi, your light's on. Okay, thank you. So commissioners, we heard from Commissioner Ohigashi, which suggests that, and myself, regarding the adequacy of the status report today, and in light of the motion before us tomorrow, there's no need for any specific motion or action requesting another specific status report or a show cause order. Is that I'd appreciate if the commissioners would weigh in on that question. Am I reading the room right?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Yamane.
Yeah, I agree with the general sentiment that the petitioner does meet the requirement of their status report. I commend their report. I find it very informative. Looking forward to more discussion tomorrow, because I think there's a larger discussion at hand with the proposed order and the TR issue and how we go forward from there. But as far as meeting the status report, I agree that I'm satisfied. Great job from the last time we had you folks here. So thank you.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Imani kind of hit it on the head. This is what today is about, and that you check the box. Okay. Commissioner Carsmith?
Yes, I just wanted to agree with that. I did wonder how, if bifurcation of the conditions is a topic to discuss more, how does that happen? When does that happen?
You want to take that one, Mr. Orendecker?
Thank you, Chair. Bifurcation of conditions is usually done at the party's request. Very often, and in most circumstances, there's a desire on the parties to limit their exposure to various elements of the decision and order. The risk that the parties run is that if they do not move to separate the conditions or to define who is responsible for which conditions, then if one of them violates, then the other one can still be held responsible. It can be done in a motion format, and we would strongly suggest that the parties do that so it's clear who's responsible for what. It would be a miscarriage of the system if, for instance, Mr. Uyoka's clients were found responsible for a TIAR that was actually with regard to something that Emmanuel Lutheran was doing or any other condition. So we look to the parties to do that, really. I mean, it benefits us if they're both held responsible, but I don't think that's what they really want.
Yeah, I don't think you can rely on common sense to adjudicate who does what. So I echo, it would be really welcome if the two petitioners can sort it out and then recommend to the commission how to bifurcate the conditions where applicable. But as you said earlier,
Recording in progress.
many of the conditions apply to both, no matter what. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Is there any further discussion today? Anything else? No? Okay, thank you. For that. Yeah. I don't think we have any further business today. We'll continue tomorrow morning. What time we scheduled, Ms. Ariana?
9:30 a.m.
9:30 a.m. We'll see you here tomorrow. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.